Yep.
There he
sound
is.
good.
Hey.
All
How do I
right,
sound?
everybody.
There we
We are officially live. Take it
All
away.
right, welcome everyone to Armwrestling Showcase number 18. We are going to talk to some special guests in the community today that everyone might or might not know. We're going to go over the Anaheim Expo that just passed and a couple of hot topics that we want to talk about and get the community's opinion on. How's everybody doing today? Pretty good?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Good.
Luke.
All right. Yeah, Travis, I got to see you at the expo. I'm sorry I didn't stop and talk. My head was all over the place.
It's all good, brother. You got to take care of business.
I at least sat next to him for a few minutes.
So we got John Hutchison in the chat from Florida. What's up, John? We got Blue Media in the chat. What's up, Blue Media? And here our guests. We have the man, the myth, the legend. We got Don Moorman. And this is, I think this could be the first show he's been on where he hasn't been doing texture at someone's house.
No, I'm working on pizza right now.
Hey, that's a much better thing to be working on.
Yeah, I got all this pizza and I'm gonna eat one slice. I gotta eat light.
Is it okay? Let's see if we can guess who can make the best guess on how Don Moorman has a pizza. Is it just a pepperoni pizza? No, don't tell us. I'm gonna guess a meat lover's pizza and something weird like anchovies or something like that.
What would be weird? Weird.
What do you think, Todd?
Sausage and olives.
Sausage and olives. What about you, Travis?
There's got to be some motor oil on there or something.
Come on. Adds to that gristle, you know.
Martin?
I'm going with
Come
the
on,
anchovies.
Josh. You know what I'll eat, right? Come on. Do you know me?
I mean, I do, but I would think it'd be veggies.
Okay.
Martin, you
and-
said extra cheese.
I'm
and
thinking.
Todd?
I have the feeling it's anchovies or something.
Yeah.
Todd, what'd you say?
I said sausage, pepperoni, and olives.
Okay, well, there it is, guys.
Oh, he went for the classic, just the pepperoni.
Yep, there you go.
Oh man, we were
There's
all
no
off.
winner. No winner.
Plain Jane.
We got Benny Ringer in the house. What's up, Benny?
What's up, Benny?
We got Tara Terry in the house saying, howdy y'all. Good to see everyone. Hope to listen in soon.
Good.
Saying
did
hello.
really
I'm
good.
hoping to come in soon, saying hello for now. So she had a very, very big win at UAL against Grace. And yeah, I saw that footage, Tara. That was some impressive stuff. That's really good for you. I'm psyched for you. We need to start cracking open that conversation with the committee and stuff in regards to what's going to be going on with that number one spot there.
She should be.
What's going on
she
with
should
that
be
number
number
one
one,
spot?
right?
Nancy Locke's holding it forever.
Is Nancy in the number one spot?
I think so.
She
Why?
is.
I
And
like Nancy, but
well,
why is she in the number one spot?
She's not competing, so I think that means that
And
Tara's number one.
I'm not saying that Nancy couldn't hold it at all. She's a phenom. I've pulled her. I've been around her. You know, I mean, there's no question. But that would be like Alan just holding the number one spot and just not showing up. I just don't understand all this talk about rankings and all this bullshit all the time. But then you have an obvious situation like that, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it.
Right.
No, she's number one. Like
right, we want to have
she-
all these polls about rankings, but then you have a big elephant in the room right there, and nobody does shit about it, right?
Well, there's like 4 or 5 of them. If you look on that rankings list, there's like 4 or 5 situations where people have been inactive for a couple of years and they're still sitting at a spot.
Right, but I mean, but in that case, that's a number. That's a number
weird.
one person. That's a number one. That's
Yeah.
more insane in my opinion, because it
Right.
stands out like a sore thumb. You know,
Right.
Yeah, the last
Tara's
time
pulling like crazy. She's pulling everything.
I
you
want to say
know,
the last time she pulled was 2020. I think
Yeah,
it's
so I mean that's
Yeah.
3 years ago. So
yeah.
I mean, if we're just talking right here at the round table or whatever this is, what do you guys think? I mean, Tara's
you
number
got to
one, right?
pull. I mean, and like I said, I'm not, and Nancy's a phenom. There's no question. I mean, I'm not saying she couldn't hold that number one. I don't think, you know, I mean, she's incredible, but you know, you have people like Tara, other people, you know, that they're competing a lot, but Tara comes to mind as somebody that's pulling everywhere, everything. And is she just to be denied a number one spot? Because
Well, I think that Nancy would. I think that Nancy would agree with us. You know, from what I know of her.
Yeah, I mean, that's not. I'm sure it's not Nancy saying keep me on here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I just laugh at all of this dialogue. Like there's dialogue today all about these ranking, all this business, and but then obvious things that could easily be dealt with, nobody does anything about.
Right. Jaden Knight Sr. says they did just remove some people for inactivity, and they had actually pulled more recently than she has. But to me, like, you know, yes, that is an elephant in the room. It is something that needs to be addressed. It's a conversation with the committee, Nancy and Tara, that conversation needs to be opened and handled. But to me, on one end is the proof in the pudding of like how highly respected Nancy is.
Yeah.
How dominant we all know she is. On one end, I think the majority of us know that if she, you know, came out of this temporary retirement or whatever is going on and was to allow anybody to challenge her for that spot, that's going to be a very tough spot to take. But
yeah, there's no question. Yeah.
Right. She's, you know, she is very amazing, and she's been doing this a very long time. But you know, what better motivation to eventually do that or get to a place where she wants to if the rankings follow their, you know, their organic path and Tara takes the number one spot. And if Nancy actually, you know, wants it back, then, you know, she can challenge for that spot back.
I mean, and
it does make it easy to,
and who knows, you know what I mean? Who knows if Nancy cares about that? You know what I mean? I mean, when you think about where she sits in the canon of female arm wrestling, just in general, you know, I'm sure, you know, where she stands in the world stage is you know, probably more to her than in the state of California. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, is that her doing, or is that just, you know, rankings, you know, that have been created, and, you know, whatever, for all you know, she don't even care about it, you know. I'm not saying she don't care, but you know what I'm saying.
It needs to be brought up between them 100%.
Yeah, to make sense of it, can I say something real quick? All you guys are like competitive arm wrestlers. I'm not really. I'm enjoying it for the obvious reasons and whatnot. Starting to practice and whatever. But so I'll come from a fan's point of view. There has to be a statute of limitations time wise. But you can always like if she doesn't compete for, like, let's say 9 months, then there's an interim number one, and then she has an asterisk next to her number one. Then if it turns into a year and a half, then she loses her spot. I mean, it's just
I
easy.
mean, that
It's
makes
easy to
sense.
interpret. Everybody knows who she is. When I first learned about her, I went back to the archives and watched like 1 million videos of her. She's just ridiculous. You can know somebody is better, but there has to be something earned. You have to.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Unless everybody just wants to admit the 2009 New York Yankees are still the world champions. See, so you can't really do that. It's sports, and there has to be a legitimacy, and it's nothing more difficult than, it's as easy as just making a rule. 9 months is an interim, and then if it goes to a year and a half, you lose your spot. You can earn it back, but there has to be a limitation on time.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I mean, because what that does for like the up and comers or the people that are chasing those spots, they're not up and comers, but are right there in the mix of those top couple spots. It kind of like, you know, shuts it down as far as possibilities and tells you, hey, that's an invisible spot that I can't even obtain.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you make the conversation interesting, right? Like, oh, look at the new number one. Can she really beat Nancy? And then you bring a little bit more, you know, Everybody's
North
anticipating,
versus
it gets more
South,
exciting,
Part
it
2.
becomes more
We
controversial,
gotta
and
get
that's just
Nancy and
what you
Tara.
want to build up. You want that
There you go,
competitive
Josh. Make it
wonder,
happen.
right?
That'd be a
true.
good match because even physically, I think they're, the structure wise,
Yeah.
body composition, size. I think it's a perfect match.
Yeah.
It's not somebody that's, and I think Nancy in the past has had issues where, people want to challenge her, but they outweigh her by, some ungodly amount of weight. I think that even happened in Wall where she took a loss and the lady outweighed her a tremendous amount, didn't make weight. So, I think Tara's perfect. It's physically, both of them for a match. If that happens, if it ever does.
Yeah, it's good to see movement in that number 1 spot, especially for the women's class.
Yeah.
We're always trying to build that women's class, women's arm wrestling in California. And yeah, we need to see that movement in the top there, especially for the girls that are putting in the work. So we just got Ricky Ramos, who just came in.
Hey,
How you
Ricky.
doing today, Ricky?
What's up, Ricky?
Look at that huge hand.
going,
Jeez.
Why does he always look so cool? Like always, dude. He's like the guy you don't want to walk up to because you're intimidated. I'm not intimidated, but I'm just saying.
He was born for this, man.
There's always one or two.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you kind of came in halfway into the conversation, Ricky, but we were kind of cracking open the conversation with Terry's win on Grace, and that was so she took second from Grace, right? Was Grace in the number 2 spot? Nancy's in the number 1 spot.
I believe so. Yes.
Now we're discussing the number 1 spot. Nancy, the last time she pulled in a tournament, I want to say was February of 2020.
You know what? As a matter of fact, funny that you guys are talking about this because it seems as though, and I got the whole conversation. It's just I was having a little bit of issues on my end, but I heard pretty much the whole conversation. I mean, I myself just went through it. What is it? I want to say, I don't even know how long ago, maybe over a year and a half ago or whatever, when I was competing heavily at 165, I got up to the number 3 spot. And, when I had my injuries and my surgeries that, knocked me out of the weight category, currently sitting for some reason at spot number, I believe I'm 12th, right-handed, or something like that. So, I mean, if it was only a year or, year and a half, however long I was out, and I was still, in and around, and I got knocked down, then why is she still number 1 if she hasn't competed in so long? Is like, what is the reasoning for that? Is it because the rankings come from someone that knows her, or what's the reasoning for that? Because everyone that's not competing within the year should just, I would say, take them off. If they don't compete that year, take them off the rankings. They don't want to do it a whole year. That's 365 days. Unless you are dying or dead, there's no reason you shouldn't compete for 1 year. Now, 1.5 years, 2 years, remove any trace of them because, they're no longer an arm wrestler at that point. And it's sad to say, but that is just the plain truth.
It is.
I agree with that
Yeah.
because you can move right back up the ranks by showing up and pulling again too. So
Absolutely.
Within a year, if you show up again and you start beating people, you're going to go right back in place again. So I have to agree with that.
It gives you a lot more motivation to do that too, to even get back in the game if you see her taken. But she's earned so much in her life. I mean, even a bit to lose that, temporary California ranking. I mean, she's a world champion. She's a county.
There's movie stars. There's movie stars from the 90s that ain't making money nowadays. So
we can't cater to a status. Just because somebody's reached a status, we can't cater to that and say, oh, well, you keep this. I mean, a perfect example, even though it's a little bit different, it was a medical thing, but Dennis, when he got sick after Devin, like they completely took him out and said he wasn't number 1 in the world, and he hadn't been beat like in several years on the left hand. But the inactivity, and they knew he wasn't going to be around, they took him off, took him out of the conversation. And if you're not around like that, again, that just puts a roadblock for them people who are out there busting their butt, you know.
Well, like, who's running this show? Like, who's running this whole show? That's what I want to know. Like, how is it like we're in this state at this local level of arm wrestling? Nobody seems to know why or how this shit seems to be happening.
Because a lot of it,
like, what is there? Like, is there like a man behind a curtain that does all this stuff?
No,
We can't mention these people's names. What is it? I'm just curious. I feel like I'm on a tirade here, but like you talk about this like as if it's the Illuminati running it. Like, what, we don't know who's doing this stuff? No,
It might
like,
fucking
who's
be.
doing it? Like what is it? Like are these mystery men? Is it a committee of people like that we don't know? We don't know these people.
I think it's
I mean, I
several
probably
people
really don't know.
from-
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I bet some of you guys know who it is or who they are, but like, why is it? Why is this not getting taken care of?
because it's just starting.
It
Oh,
is.
but
that's
I feel
why
like I've been looking at
everybody-
these rankings
that's
for
why-
like over a
that's why-
year.
That's why you're saying what you're saying, and all of us are talking about it right now, is because everything's just starting to take place. We didn't do this stuff before.
I think it's all foolishness anyway, but
Two,
you know,
3 years ago, I
that's
think
just me.
they formed the
Yeah.
California Arm Wrestling League, and yeah, I know there are a couple of the committee members. We all know. Josh, that's something we're able to disclose, right? They've put that out there, right?
Yeah, I would think so, but I don't know who like everybody involved is.
You
I
might say,
don't-
you
I
might
know
say
that-
I
the
only
people
know that a
you
couple
you
of them
look
are
at-
Northerners.
If you look at next to Caleb's name, when he posts up, it says author and admin. And then if you look at Israel's name, it says group expert. So I don't know. They all have badges.
So is this like a big no-cal thing? Is that what it is? It's all about, is this like a no-cal thing then?
If
There's
so, then that would
been
make sense as to why
conversations
she's holding
on-
the #1 spot.
Is that, yeah, I mean, I
So
don't know.
there's been conversations on their page about
Uh-huh.
that, because as soon as they started a ranking system, they attempted to do that for California.
Mhm.
On their page, of course, everybody got really vocal. So there was certain periods where they were interacting with the people, and I know Caleb was mentioning himself as one of the committee members. I believe Matt Silva is. The others,
They're
I don't
pretty
know, but I
open to
believe
all
it's 4 or 5
suggestions.
people. The one thing I do like is that they do seem open to conversing with the
they are.
California community to kind of establish answers. So they are at ground floor.
The thing is though, I mean, I just feel like we're complicating this. Like Ricky said, like that would be like just Alan just holding the #1. And he's like, hey, you know, I used to pull Petaluma back in the day. I haven't pulled in years. I'm just an enigma. Just keep me at #1. It just doesn't happen. He still pulls. He still shows up. I just don't understand, how is this such an issue? Just remove the lady. Like, what is the problem? I don't understand this. Like, we're talking about this like it's a real puzzle to figure out here.
It clearly is a problem, but to me, this is the first time anybody addressed it as an issue. And I think the reason for that is because of the female, side of arm wrestling is a lot smaller. So you've had, that conversation been brought up by maybe the female, something like that. It might have been happening right now, because.
So has anyone looked into
2 and 3?
Has anyone looked into what do other organizations or
Well, see, that's what I was going to say. They all have their own thing. They all have their own thing.
They all do it.
But I'm saying, I just think that this could be solved right here. I think it's exactly what Ricky said. Like, you don't pull it.
Absolutely.
End the
It's so
story.
simple.
I feel like this is being overcomplicated for full. It's just foolishness. It's
You know what?
unbelievable.
Check this out. So
it's
Well,
California.
today,
Come on now.
in the defense of listen, I just want to make this clear. In the defense of the people that are doing the committee, there's only 3 girls' names on the list, or 4 at the most, anyway. And this rankings change or things that have happened only happened 2 days ago, and it's barely being talked about now. Like, this has never been a conversation. There was literally only like 2 girls in the
But
state
I'm certain that every girl that's pulling has seen those rankings over many, many months.
Yeah,
And I'm sure for those
that's what I was
girls,
about
they
to say.
wondered why what's her name's just sitting at #1.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you that.
Exactly.
I've noticed that for a while that she's
Right?
not-
Okay, yeah.
Hey,
Someone
see?
did tell me,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is within the last year.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It has been
exactly.
looked. I know. I know. I know. I mean, I know for
And
a
we've
fact
we've
that
all
was
kind of
looked at.
seen it. We've all kind of seen it going on. It's
Yeah.
just that, to be honest, none of us really cared enough to talk about it. Now
Right,
we're just
right.
talking
That's
about
what's
it. But I am damn sure for the female side,
They've
they
looked at
don't
it.
want to make a big scene, and
Yeah.
they're just happy to be part of it at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm sure to them, they've been looking at that name at the top like, man,
Yeah.
like what's going on there? And it's not right, because some of these
Right,
girls that are
right.
walking back and forth, actually doing the tournaments and coming out and making arm wrestling a
Yeah.
thing, would like to say, for even if it's for a week, who wouldn't want to
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm number one in California at
I know
da-da-da
it's
weight.
been discussed because even
Yeah.
amongst ladies that pull in the state, like Sarah LaFon, Sarah Latone. I mean, I know that dialogue is even happened with them. People that aren't even in the state that maybe wonder like, hey, will she show up at a tournament? I'd like to pull her. I'd like to pull Nancy. Somewhere in the state or somewhere. So I But for the ladies in the state where, like you said, it is a small pool. They are out there. They are hitting the tournaments. It's still like, or I think I even remember seeing, Malia put a post up, or not a post, or a reply on there to the rankings. Like, hey, can we get a rankings for the ladies? I remember that very specifically.
Yeah, I know.
And
It's
then
kind of
obviously
new.
one
That's-
showed up,
yeah.
but so it is being thought about. There's no question.
Yeah.
I think I might sound like a little geek
Oh.
here, but I used to play high level tennis back in the days when I was a teenager, and in the professional tennis, they have a points rank system. So there's weight carried on to the type of tournament you're playing. Some tournaments are harder than others, depending on what place you come in that tournament. There's points that are attributed to you that go to the rankings.
Right.
There's how often are you arm wrestling? What tournaments? Who have you beaten? What place did you finish? And that will solve the problem for inactivity as you come off the boards. Not that you're not a better arm wrestler. That's not what it says. It says you're active, you're consistent, you're building up points, and the ranking systems become much more simple.
Well, then obviously
Yeah,
that
that's
air
what-
system
that's the
can solve
Corey
that.
Miller's
Well,
thing. Yeah, that's what he's doing, which is a great thing, and it makes complete sense. I mean,
but I mean, for the
that,
ladies in the state, that's solved already. Like that, that's like there's so few women. Like it's just a no brainer. But like,
well,
I
they
don't know.
never. These rankings are just a thing that was made, right? Like if you remember back in the day, like the early UALs. They would, like John Brzezinski was the UAL heavyweight champion, and he'd be taking on the number 2 or 3 contender. They had their own rankings for the UAL. They had their own rankings for the WAL. They had their own rankings for East versus West. Everybody has their own rankings for their event because it matters. You have different reps, different rule sets, different things in each event that you're competing in.
You also want to bring a legitimacy to it. So even though there's not as many women, when you have structure, and it makes sense to the community at large that might be peeking in to see what it is, it brings legitimacy. That brings respect, and then it brings attention.
And
it's just, that's how something grows. There has to be an organized effort for everybody to grab a hold and understand what's going on. Even if there's
the
only
ladies
a few
in
women
general
in the
and
season.
beyond the rankings, the ladies have been, and I'm sorry, I mean, you guys know, I mean, I was involved with somebody that was pulled a lot. They're an afterthought. And they're treated, in my opinion, like shit in the state in regards to how even the tournaments are run and how the women are fit into the tournament. I watched it. I've heard, I've been privy to conversation, where women were told like, hey, when are we going to pull? Oh, well, we'll fit you in. We'll fit you in, we'll fit in a bracket throughout the course of 8 hours. So you don't even have time to warm up your arm. So, this to me is just another extension of that, and it is, I don't know. People talk about want to get women in the sport. You're not going to get, I mean, that's an issue unto itself. But then the few you're going to get in, it's going to be run like a shit show and like an afterthought, and it could even cause a risk of injury. I mean, they don't even know when the hell they're going to pull, and I don't know. It's kind of, it is what it is.
Right.
To me, it just goes along with the rest of it. And this is a very simple thing, you know, even for the women that are pulling, you know, like I said, I'm not saying it matters the whole world to them, but you know, you're number 2, you're number 1. It's a legitimate thing. You're putting in the work. Nobody's making money off this. They're training, they're doing their thing. There's a small pool. Give them that, at least the legit ranking thing here, you know, instead of this other stuff, you know. That's what I have to say about it.
Absolutely.
You know, and I don't have a dog in the race with any of this with women and things. I'm just saying, yeah. But you know, it is what it is. They're all busting their ass. They are, you know. I think they should.
It's one of those things. The
Because the
dog
guys
in the race
go fucking nuts. The guys go nuts. They go real fucking nuts. As we know, I'm sure that'll be another topic of the conversation today. But you know, but then the few women, it's like nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that they had the for UAL this past one. They had those nice rings for the ladies.
Yeah, those are nice.
That was pretty cool. And I totally get what you're saying. Every now and then you see I've been seeing it here and there where certain promoters, certain tournaments are willing to give they're giving payouts to all 3 girls. Right. The only 3 girls that competed in that competition, and there's also some that are not, or that are just closing out the women's side completely if there's not enough. I don't know. I definitely think no matter what, the consensus should be whatever you do have on the female side is put that shit up on a big pedestal at the event, however you can. There's not that many of them anyways.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You can give for payouts.
They're going to take up a few minutes of that day, that long day. You know what I mean?
Right. It's very good for the sport. I think.
Loves to watch the girls.
What's that?
I agree with ladies first.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really good hype. I think it's really fun to watch the ladies.
And their matches are always incredible. The ladies give it, you know what I mean? They just do their thing. I just don't get it. I mean, but
that was a great super match. I mean, by far could have went either way with Tara and Grace. I mean, everybody was pretty much on their feet on that one, but it was really exciting to watch. So, I mean, look at when it comes to the rankings, obviously a year
Tara struts around like a little fucking leopard up there, you know.
What's that?
Yeah.
Strut. Chest out.
What was that, Travis?
No, I was saying, obviously, I agree. Like, you know, I believe within a year period, I think it's kind of crazy because even on the pro level, they obviously have Hermes and then Devin. They're going to be arm wrestling, and they're saying, "Oh, this is for the number 1." And I'm just like, okay, well, I understand like Levon's hurt, but it's like, I believe it should be about a year until they could like, okay, you're not number 1 anymore. You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, I understand like he's like inactive, he's injured, whatever the case is, but I still believe, you know, within that year period, I don't think you could kick somebody out within that time. But I mean, hey, everybody has their own rules. They kind of make them up as they go along. So even when it comes down to the amateurs, it would be cool to see like, okay, this is like, you know, the top 5 amateurs or top 10 amateurs, because then you know they're going to be going to that pro level. Because in reality, like if you know, me and Martin are in amateurs, you're not going to see us in the top 5 in the pros for a long time, probably. You know what I mean? There's a lot of elite people out there. It's like, okay, well, it's like, what if, you know, a number 2 or number 3 amateur in California wants to face one another? That'd be pretty interesting as well. So, I mean, some of us aren't going to see that like top 5 for a few years because there's just so many elite people out there. But yeah, I mean, I believe rankings are really cool. I believe the point system is probably the best way to go about it. You could kind of make things up right now because like everything's just kind of just starting to take off, and not necessarily take off, but it's starting to gain more traction than it has been in years past is what I'm seeing. I'm guessing, but yeah, I mean, if you're really into it, you could kind of make the shit up right now as you go along, to be honest with you. So that's the way it seems. Anybody that's willing to take initiative can pretty much make their own ranking system up. If I made up a ranking system and I'm like, okay, I'm number 7 guy on the totem pole of this weight class, nobody can argue it because nobody else has created the ranking system. So
That's okay. Let's
I'm just
go.
gonna
what's
make.
the
I'm just
deal?
gonna,
Come on, let's segue into the real one. What's the deal with this exempt thing? Which I think is the biggest foolishness in the world. I'm sorry. I'm gonna probably piss some of you guys off. That makes me sick.
Yeah.
Exempt?
What is it?
In other words,
This whole like,
if you play, you pay.
like super matches, and like then if you lose later, you don't lose your ranking because you pulled a super match earlier. That seems insanity to me.
Oh, they made a recent post about.
Yeah,
Right.
it's stirring up everything today.
I didn't really have time to read the whole thing, but it did kind of get my attention. I was just at work. Can somebody summarize that for myself and anybody else that didn't see it?
Caleb,
What is it like?
made a post. He was just asking what people thought about if you had a super match and then you pulled the tournament later the same day, and if the super match was 4 rankings, should you then lose that ranking spot if you lost in the tournament later, you know, being gassed out from your super match? The back and forth was, you had plenty of people in there saying, you know, their pieces or whatever, but the back and forth mainly was like, you know, Alan and some other guys had said that they know that some guys, you know, travel from here or there, and if they're just pulling their super match and then they don't pull the tournament because they might lose their ranking, you know, it makes it not as fun, not as big of a class. But the majority, I think the majority in the messages, at least, it seemed like they agreed that you shouldn't lose your ranking.
See,
I
think if you pull a super match and nobody's putting a gun to your head to go do the tournament, you do the tournament and knocks you down, it knocks you down. That's just my opinion. I think it opens up.
I agree.
I agree.
Wait,
I think
so
you exempt guys.
What the opposite? The majority was saying you should not lose your ranking.
Yeah, the majority were thinking that you should be exempt, even if it's with a different arm, even if it's not even with the same arm you pulled the super match.
No. Everyone is their own athlete. You make your own choice. If you're going to show up there
and I think and personally, I mean,
what's going to happen? And
I think that there's a lot, and I don't care. I'll say it. I think, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff due to a Scott Partington Ballesteros match. I think that started a whole can of shitstorm from this weekend, you know, and that's just the truth. I'm nobody, so I'll say it. I really don't care, but that's just the reality of it. People don't want to lose rankings, and Scott did what he needed to do. You know, people want a bellyache now. Oh, this. I don't know these. Like I said, I know Scott. I pull with him. I don't know him, you know, like that. But it seems like that happened, and now all of a sudden, it's all of this. This is just this stuff about this. All of a sudden, you know,
there's a lot to unpack.
I think
about
if the shoe was on the other foot, I think nobody'd have any problem wiping Scott right off the thing. See, that's just my opinion. I think if it was reversed, this conversation and that thread wouldn't be made today.
Because there's a way
to more
odd
SoCal stuff, in my opinion. I don't know.
But look at say you have like guys at the top, right? The 2 number 1 guys at the top, right? They have their super match, and then say, okay, just for, you know, popularity's sake, John Brzezinski goes up against Devin Larratt in a super match, right? And there's a tournament that follows. And then say, you know, John beats Devin, and then, you know, he's still number 1, and then goes and just enters the tournament just to be a part of the tournament. And then, you know, there's some guys around that can, you know, give John a run for his money, right? Now, say one of these guys takes the tournament because everyone's just working on John and say laying down to everyone else. So they bracket themselves to pin John and get him down. Does whoever beat him really become number 1 in the world, or is John still number 1?
Right.
Because in a super match the following week or the following month, we all know John would beat them. But for that tournament, he lost to them. But I totally get
that's kind of,
you know, you didn't have to get into that tournament after your super match. You chose it.
I remember 2 years ago,
the way everybody's
tournament I ever went to.
Sounding like it's starting to be very separate.
Yeah, I don't know. It shouldn't be.
No,
you know, I remember 2 years ago, first tournament I went to was in Roy, Utah. It was when Brzezinski made his first comeback. It was like he entered a tournament in Roy, Utah, the week or two before he was going to pull Chance Shaw. And there was a super match between Dallas and Craig Toulier.
Right.
The Toulier won. Toulier still went in the tournament and lost.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't give a shit. Like, it was what it was. You know what I mean? But now it seems like, you know, you get guys all worked up as to where that would have put their ranking, you know. He made a choice to pull. He's like, I'm going to pull. You know, he's one of those guys, old school. He pulls, regardless of what would have happened. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just what my concern with is if something like this goes through, what's next? You have a guy, you know, pulls a tournament. He gets in 3 grinders. At the end, his last match, he goes up against a guy who flash pinned 3 guys. He loses. What's he do? Start bitching like, hey, I should get another shot. I should get another shot because I had 3 grinders. That's like going back to the early UFC where it was a tournament setting. You know, there'd be guys that would be grinding all night. In the end, they had to go up against a guy who maybe had like 2 quick knockouts.
Right.
It was what it was. But I just think you open up a can of worms. Like, where does it end if you start doing that? You know?
Yeah, it's not something that you can create a solid structure to that people can depend on.
No, you can't even get the female rankings put in order right now, you know, with 5 people.
In an unbiased thing, I will say that Allen got left in the number 1 spot because David beat him on fouls. I mean, so that it's not favoritism for a side. There is that thing where they hold certain, I shouldn't say anybody individually, I don't know, but I do understand that some people hold some to a status, and that's probably part of that reason. But I mean, I watched David win, I think 2 or 3 matches against Allen in the last year on fouls or whatever it might have been, and didn't get put in the number 1 spot for, you know, a while.
And that, I think that's wrong. And that's no disrespect to him. I think he's amazing, but that brings me to a really important point. I think that I also was kind of gathering from what you were saying, Ricky. You were using very high level circumstance, Ricky, to kind of paint your picture, right? And to me, that's the biggest area where anything like this should even exist. You know, but even in that circumstance, it should be against those athletes making their own like adult personal decision to compete. If they want to sacrifice their ranking in a tournament after a super match, then fine. But to me, if anybody below that, you know, working on California rankings or, you know, local level rankings or trying to like get on the top 20 or whatever, I mean, give me a break. Like, it's a personal problem. If you're not willing to go out and have fun at a tournament and get experience at a tournament after, you know, a ranked super match or something like that, to me, that's a personal problem. And to get a committee involved in deciding what excuses matter and which ones don't, like,
yeah. But that's why I thought that it'd be a great idea for whoever's doing the rankings to just have a separate rankings for super matches and a separate one for tournaments. I mean, that's like
you don't really got to do that because I mean, at the end of the day, we can all just say, you know, hey, you decided to go into my explanation of the whole John and Devin thing and the tournament was just to get an understanding of it. But at the end of the day, we can all agree, just basically, hey, if you know, have your super match and you want to keep your ranking, then after that super match, you sit down and watch the tournament. If you want to risk your ranking, you get in the tournament, whatever happens, and it's on you. And that's just it. That's it.
I
from
agree
here
with
on
that.
out, and that's all there is to it.
You don't have to do the tournament. You don't have to.
Sucks.
You're not sitting there. We're not sitting there with a 20,000, you know, cash prize here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know
if
this,
there's an issue with it, if there's an
if-
issue at all about it, then have a super match. Have a
When
super
I
match
go-
the following week, the following month with whoever you lost your ranking to. Have another super match, have another super match, have another super match. Because I'll super match the same guy every month. It doesn't matter to me. Now, it matters to a lot of people because they're scared of what other people will say and social media, this and that. Hey, get out there, do your thing. If you're that guy, then be that guy. You can't be scared. Oh, well, but I did this and did that. No, if you're that guy, prove you're that guy. Oh, I got to wait because I got another tournament. Okay, well then, hey, sorry, but you stay in number 2 till you prove that you could beat that guy that just beat you. And that's just it. Simple.
Yeah.
And if you don't show up to the next 2 tournaments you're at, hey, sorry, but you gotta get your way back to him to get your spot back. And that's just it.
I agree.
The long and the short of it, pretty much.
Yeah.
We've got Art Raval, Armtube channel in the house, saying hello. What's up? We got Benjimac in the house, saying what's up, moderating in the chat. And
most active people are pulling at least once a year, at least.
Yeah,
at least.
We've got Tara Terry is responding to everybody's comments on the circumstance, and she says, thank you all for your support. It is so appreciated. She said, I'll give her.
Wait, you mean Tara #1 in California? That Tara?
That Tara.
Oh, okay,
That's
cool.
right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And she said, listen, I'll give her a title shot if she wants it.
I'm sure she would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what does Nancy have to say about that?
Let's find out. We have her on every female Friday.
You know, Todd mentioned points that like other sports does that. I know we have Aries, right?
Yeah.
And I just looked up Nancy. She's not on there at all. So.
She's not on Aries. Yeah. So like she's not on Aries. And obviously Corey that's been almost everywhere now. Like, you know, you don't see anything where they're not using it. I'm sure there's few. So she's not on there. Then like, how is it holding up here? You know, but.
Right.
Good
I mean,
point.
I'm on Aries and I don't compete.
I'm not on Aries.
It's what is Aries? It sounds like a dating site or something.
But I thought some of you guys didn't know about it.
I've never heard about it.
Pisces, you know.
No, you have Corey Miller's ranking system.
Oh,
The
yeah.
brackets and all,
I didn't
yeah.
know that was his name. I just called it Corey Miller's rankings.
It's brilliant. It's perfect. It's just one of those things that takes time. It takes time.
Oh, yeah.
All the tournaments logged in and backlogged and
Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, if the Corey Miller system is the way to go. I mean, the way he's explained it and everything,
you know,
yeah,
weed out guys that have pulled pro for like 10 years that
want
to continue that want to dump themselves into the amateur class.
Yeah,
and,
what was the change?
Why people like it? That shit's happening, you know. Well, I'm
just
sure
made that change to it, right? Where it'll automatically default you to the open class in the rankings or something like.
Yeah, they're saying it's going to solve that eventually. I don't know exactly how, but
right. If you've competed so long and had so many like wins or podiums in amateur, like even if you compete amateur or something like I forget.
I don't know. Or or if it just shows that you've placed high in pros or opens for ages, you know, and then you're still pulling amateur, but then winning every amateur, but then you're still making top 3 in pros. I have no idea. I don't know if we'll ever get dealt with. Maybe it will. I don't know.
We got Rib Slug in the house saying what's up? What's up, Rib Slug? We got let's see. Yeah. Oh, and Mitchell Stone is in the house, and Mitchell says Tara is.
That sounds like a porno name. That sounds. I don't know who this is, but that sounds like
Mitchell's
that
a badass, and he just poked his head out after I want to say at least like 2-3 years. But him and I started at the exact same time, Martin.
Okay.
And I believe so. We both competed in the same amateur tournament together, which had like 3 of us in it, I think, for our first tournament. And we also, I believe, competed in our first open tournament months after that. But he's a beast. And I didn't know what happened to him. He's one of those guys that lives like way out in, I want to say, Nevada or something. Hard to find people to train with. But apparently he's hooked up with Robert and Tara up there. They've been training hard, so it's good to hear. So yes, it's quite a topic. The
think that
rankings are always
that
something
post
to
that
talk
Caleb
about.
made regarding that, I think it went like wildfire there. That thing. I'm sure it's still growing.
Right. We got Caleb is on an absolute tear right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Yeah, he
always on a tear.
Yeah,
He's always on the tear.
he is just
How
always
active he
upward
is,
trajectory.
his points should
Yeah.
be tallying up. Second place,
Seriously.
third place, first place, third place, second place. He should be climbing. Not just in California, but just wherever. The
Yeah.
point system is the key in regards to that amateur. Those are amateur points. They have nothing to do with the pros. They
Mhm.
stay down there. They're separate.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not overly complicated. They just have to figure out a way to tally the points, what kind of numbers they're going to be working with. You know what I mean? Hundreds or thousands, depending on what tournament you are. There might be some bonus points based on who you pull, things like that. And they can figure it out. It's a science. It's just math.
It
And
should
then
right.
lock it in.
It shouldn't be overly complicated. But then, from what I gather from talking to people or watching enough podcasts with guys like Leonard Harkless or Bill Collins or, any of these people, like they say, one of the reasons it's never even remotely been considered for the Olympics is because you cannot get arm wrestling federations or anything in sync. People are there's always going to be drama. And I personally, you see it already today, it's already now. Last I saw, Engen with these contracts is now he's allowing you to still pull the Monster Factory and event. And there's another one local, but you can't pull Bowen's AWE. So you can pull the Monster, you can pull King of the Table. You can be under contract for King of the Table. You can be under contract for East versus West, but he'll allow you to pull the Monster Factory events and some other local ones here. And I think maybe Talmadge's, but you can't pull Bowen's AWE. Because he's got a hard on. So it's already right off the bat, you're already getting into the favoritism and all the bullshit. So, I
was watching a lot of videos with that today and yesterday. And my opinion is it's not the problem with contracts. It's a problem with letting people be free. But then there's also that risk. I saw his video about, hey, I'm taking all the risk. I get that.
Right.
I think there needs to be a threshold with the contract. If you pass a certain threshold, then all this stuff becomes activated because then nobody's going to cry about it. I'm making a living. I'm making good money. But if I don't reach that threshold based on the events or whatever's going on, or maybe I'm not as big of a name, then I'm
you're
free to go ahead and make money other places.
Yeah,
So
it was maybe Jamie even said something like that. He didn't say specifically that, but I think Jamie had wrote something today. You had tiered guys. You had tiered guys in Wall, the top guys who weren't belly aching about anything. Then you had other guys that were like on a, maybe a month-to-month contract that, third tiered guys, let's just say. I'm not saying that's what Jamie said, but I think Ryan Bone was saying that too. It's different, and these guys, maybe they're making a couple bucks. They still need to provide. They're not running their whole life and paying their mortgage off of it, so, but are you going to lock those guys into the same contract that you're going to lock, Dave Chafee into? No, that's crazy. You shouldn't,
Exactly.
So yeah, I think your point is very well made. That's a real big thing there. Yeah. It can't just be straight across the board, A
lot of those contract types of scenarios are going to exist so long as a lot of the leagues and organizations are all segregated. And I'm trying to you think of other sports that doesn't really have, there's not like several leagues for every pro sport, It's kind of weird. And part of me, it kind of thinks, well, is that cool? Is this an interesting organic thing where our sport could be so massive that there's just all these different options for leagues? But the better part of me really likes what Scott Wynn's trying to put together. He's been doing this for a while, but really getting a lot of pushback from the different leagues to get involved. And it's not really so much of a takeover or anything like that. It's a way to, from how I understand it, I don't want to speak for him, but it sounds to me like it's a way to unite the leagues. And that could be a really cool thing. But you're talking with several big monsters to
Yeah.
try and wrangle and make some sense out
Yeah.
of.
Mm.
Yeah, contracts are no good for arm wrestling. I'll just say it. I've seen it happen twice before, and nothing good comes from it. The only way we are going to move forward is one of two ways. Either some mass billionaire comes and just demolishes all of these other little pop-up leagues and takes over and says, hey, you know what? This is the way we're going to do things. You know, in order to make us happy, well, it'd be nice if this one person came in and said, hey, whatever funding we need to get this to the world, we'll do it. We're going to place a vote. If you're an arm wrestler, it doesn't matter if you just started yesterday or you've been doing it since you were, you know, fresh out of the womb. You get a vote on, you know, this rule and that rule. And what do you think about straps and slippages at what point and And that's how we create the rule set by all of us coming in and voting on it. And I see that as that would be the only way. Either that or magically all these little leagues getting together and kumbayaing and saying, hey guys, let's, you know, get together and agree to something by majority vote or, you know, whatever. And then that's it for life and hold them under contract. If they breach contract, then they have to, you know, pay a fine or something like that. But those are pretty much the only two options of us moving forward. Otherwise, this drama and BS is going to keep going and keep going and keep going. I've been doing this 10 years and it's been like, you know, a vicious cycle. It's the same thing, the same complaints over and over with just different faces saying them. And it's sad, but I mean, is it ever going to change unless one of those things happens? No. And it is what it is.
Do they have an arm wrestling channel?
Everyone does.
No, not YouTube. I'm talking
Back in the day? Or you mean like a television?
You know, on cable, NBA, the tennis channel. It's just centered around the sport. And with a unity from what you're talking about combined with a channel on cable. And look, let's be honest, man. People that put the money forth to do something so big, to bring this sport to where it actually deserves to be. But there's a lot of disagreement. It takes money and nobody's going to do it without looking to make money at the same time. And it's reasonable to think that way.
Yeah, people don't do something
big.
just to
People
do
want
it.
to make profit.
Yeah.
I think there's profit for everybody that gets involved. The more you put in, the more you get out. There's a big risk. You're talking about millions of dollars.
I mean,
no
barring
doubt.
you get some guy like, I think, you know, how they did with jujitsu and the Emirates, the Abu Dhabi, you know, you get some sheik that's just like, he's just a freak who just loves arm wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, just doesn't care. Like, I love it, you know, and I'll put a boatload of money and I just don't care. But that's rare to find. You know what I mean? That's rare to find. You're right. You're going to need somebody that has a lot of money and is going to want to know he's going to still be able to make a profit, make money out of that, you know?
Well, what's interesting is one thing that there is a lot of out there in the world and the sports world is investors. You know, on one end, with the growth of the sport and social media and how many events we have going and how much money flows in different directions with it, you know, you would think that there would be some way to create a good positive investment in this sport to be able to utilize what's going on. But, you know, then it kind of makes you think, what is it about this sport that the many investors out there, you know, to see millions of followers on several arm wrestling channels and everything that's going on in the sport, to look at it and be like, this is not a good investment.
I see. I'm not as optimistic about the growth of the sport because I think you look at these pay-per-view numbers, how can you make money off of that?
What do they look like?
These are no numbers. They're not big. You know, you look even like Monster Factory, you'll be like, what? How many people? You know, you
got to have a bigger audience.
I just don't. I am just of the, and I'm not trying to be a party pooper. I do not believe arm wrestling will ever be big like people think. You know, they're like, oh, it's going to be like the UFC. I do not believe that will ever happen. I believe it is a niche sport. I believe it is a fringe sport. I think as awesome as it is, I love that it is. I love what's going on with East West and all of these things, but I do believe in the end it is still a fringe sport. I equate it to jujitsu for one limb. It's a one limb jujitsu. I think if you look at like the UFC, big MMA, one huge aspect of MMA is grappling, right? It's, you know, no gi grappling. And the other aspect is stand-up fighting, whether you want to say Muay Thai or boxing. The thing is, if you can consider how much grappling, no gi grappling is to UFC fighting, but then you really look at how many people follow no gi grappling, it's barely anything compared to MMA. And grappling, and that's full body. That's joint locks. That's guys using their full body. We're using one limb on a table, and all people think about is your arm is going to snap. I really believe I think it could become awesome, but I do not believe this is ever going to be. I always hear Coach Ray, these guys, oh, it's going to be like the UFC. That's never going to happen. That is never going to happen. It's not that exciting to people. You're not getting head kicks. People don't realize how intricate this sport is. As we know, you'll be learning things till the day you die. They don't realize what's going on in your hands.
Kick, no?
What's that?
Well,
You could combine it with slaps and slapping people in the face.
I have to say,
but I believe pure arm wrestling. I think people don't realize how awesome it is unless they're doing it. I don't know, and I think unless they're going to this whole route with Devin being a heel and everybody's pissed off at each other and creating this drama, but I think that'll only go so far.
I agree.
I agree that arm wrestling is the way it is. Yeah, it's not giving ourselves too much potential to grow. But if you look at those sports that you're talking about, like UFC, or even we could take it a step further to like, you know, wrestling that was on TV, like WWF. The thing that made both of those sports reach their heights was the Attitude Era, where they were talking shit and doing all that. So, and right now, I mean, even like Dana White, he has his own slap league. I mean, if that shit can be popular, people want to see theatrics. People want to see all the wild antics and stuff. So yes, arm wrestling as a professional sport is probably not the thing that's going to be, you know, grasped by the entire community of non-arm wrestlers wanting to watch. Unless it's these special matches where it's a tiny guy going against a huge guy and it's real theatrical. That's what, you know, all those things have in common that really took them to the next level. Because even the UFC,
I mean, you know,
kind of stagnant.
I have a personal thing. And I've said this before, I'd be fine if it just stayed jeans and t-shirts and bars. I mean, I don't know. I got a romanticized idea of that old school way, but I look on YouTube and I look at these old arm sport videos and I look at like stuff from the 80s and the 90s, and like I don't think it's big. I think because of social media, we think it's bigger than ever.
It's bigger than
fails in comparison. I think back in the day there might have been more guys competing in it.
It was much more serious.
I mean, but that doesn't mean it's more popular. I mean, and obviously popularity is bigger, and with social media and just YouTube channels, I mean, and that's awesome. I just sometimes wonder if it's actually bigger, though. You know what I mean? It's hard to tell. I don't know, you know?
So
I'd love it if it was that big. But then at the same point, I believe when it gets that big, then I think for the guys like us, I mean, barring we're all making money from it, I think you lose a certain purity. I think you lose it. There's a nostalgia. I think there might be something where you go, man, I remember when it was all good, you know, when we were, you know, going down to these fucking tournaments and we were doing this stuff. Sometimes it gets too big and it turns into something else. And that's happened. There's guys with UFC, early guys, every sport, guys will talk about that, you know. You want
still
something
hasn't reached that level where
you know
it
might become inaccessible in a certain way, you know. Or just the guys with a natural talent, you know, you'll start getting monoliths, mega huge, just freaks just going into the sport, you know, and it turns into something else, you know.
So I don't completely disagree with you. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree, but I'm gonna tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
You get somebody like a Dana White.
Okay.
The marketing, that's the first thing. Face recognition. is the second thing, and then the arena is the third thing.
So you're saying like an
UFC
established guy like Dana White, though, like somebody that's already got.
I'm saying, so you get some of these big time arm wrestlers attached to a businessman that can really articulate on Dana's level, sit down, show him a game plan, have a business plan, and you sit down with a man like that who can take something from nothing, and you know, with of course there was other help.
Ricky, go talk to Dana.
The UFC almost went bankrupt. Okay, they saved the
I remember.
UFC. Yeah, I was there when UFC 1 happened. I loved it. I was like, oh my god, as a teenager, I was like, oh, this is great, right?
Hey, Todd.
You know, and they made rules and whatnot.
Yeah,
marketing, face recognition. You see these big, huge men, and then you see some of the smaller guys that are all ripped and can probably, you know, tear your arm off, even if you're like 75, just a normal average man. You know, it can be, but there needs to be that investment.
You need that guy
with the marketing, face recognition, the whole thing, man.
We've already had that. We've already had that twice recently. Most as recent, just a couple of years back with Steve Kaplan and WAL. That's not the issue. It's fighting in the community that destroys it. And honestly, Steve was onto something. He was, until, you know, whatever bad investment happened with that Las Vegas tournament that was supposed to happen, where he had all the elites from all over the world trying to fly in to be a part of it, and then he canceled it the day before, and people were in Vegas just like, hey, what's going on? And that was the end of WAL that day. But he was onto it. I mean, he had us on TV. He had commercials, people doing interviews on, you know, the news channels and all of that. And it was going there until that one day. And then he just turned off and we never heard from him again. But, you know, besides that, we got to look at just everything outside of our opinions and what we care about, because we're inside. We got to look at it from the outside.
Right.
Human nature, you know? What do people like? What do people want? It can't just be about what we want. It's about what the people want, because that's who we're worried about. Because if it was about us, then you know, we're good, happy and dandy. As Martin said, you know, Martin's happy with what we got going on. We need shiny shit. We need labels, brands. We need movement. Two guys at the table going like that isn't gonna do it. Even baseball has more movement than us.
That's a very You're right, because that's a very personal thing. You know what we get out of that?
Running around. Basketball. You're running around. Football. You're hitting each other. UFC. They're smashing into each other. That's what guys want to see. Guys want to see things moving. That's what we are. They're not going to get that. You know, you finally got your setup. You got your thumb just where you wanted, and it was the greatest thing in the world.
Watching two guys just quietly bitching going before they even do anything.
People still have no idea. They just think you're just pushing sideways. It's still that's just the reality of it, you know.
For us intricate guys, we see the thumb move and the wrist rise or dump, and we're like,
you're like, I finally said something. I finally spoke up and got my hand the way I wanted to. That's a big fucking deal.
That's but
in terms of not to somebody else.
In terms of production, when you're talking about that, like bringing it to some other level, it really does have to be a successful producer that knows how to bring in eyeballs and what's entertaining, you know, where we're a very DIY self-serving community. And, you know, we've got arm wrestlers trying to do this. And if it's going to be, and I'm with you, Martin, like, I'm fine with how it is. Like, I don't need us to like go into some WE kind of fucking like fake stuff, you know. But that's, you know, that somebody that's really wise into what's entertaining and production.
I mean, obviously, like you say, you see what Neil does, but that's in a very private thing. You know, the Arm Wars thing is a certain thing. That's not for mass consumption, obviously. You know what I mean? At that level, I think it's fantastic, and he has a niche in there, which is perfect. You know, and I obviously there's some other things that are doing that. I don't know whether it's Arm Gods or whatever, but there's other versions of it, and it's great that we have these other things because they're different niches, you know, and sometimes you may just like that more. But big picture stuff that we're talking about, that won't. I mean, his production value, absolutely, but that's it's a closed set, you know. It's different. It's a different kind of production, you know, and I love it. But we're talking about, you know, big millions of dollars, millions of people getting into it,
Yeah.
his production values would be a facet of that, but it's not enough to just, have matches in a house in the English countryside. It's just not enough,
It has its place in the
But
community.
it has its place,
that exists.
absolutely, and I love it. And I think that his thing will have its place even if this thing did skyrocket. If it became Dana White big, I think Neil's thing would still hold up on as its own thing.
Well, the interesting thing you were saying earlier was the constant comparison in the community to UFC and needing to follow that model, stuff like that. I couldn't disagree with that more.
Okay.
Because to me, like those two spots, I know why everyone.
Well, I don't think it needs it. I have the feeling that that's what would happen with it.
I'm not specifically disagreeing with you. I'm disagreeing that they're anything alike.
No,
I know that we want to kind of like think that because they're combat sports. They're one combat sports. But to me, there's just if anything like our sport, maybe because there's a table in the middle with a person on each side, maybe slap fighting, and that's why it's so freaking popular, because it follows that kind of general theme. But to me, there's a lot more of a chess match involved. You got to be kind of technically minded to be into it, and in terms of an entertainment way. It would be it's a very different monster to take on to make entertaining in the same way, UFC is, and these types of sports. So that being said, but the part that I'm in slight disagreement with you on is in terms of size. I think arm wrestling is growing and can get much bigger, but in a very different way. I think what's unique about it is that it is so UFC is very entertaining to watch.
Right.
Top tier athletes. These are absolutely insane humans going out there to compete in dangerous combat,
right,
head to toe, right? And there's not a lot of people that are willing or even capable of doing that anywhere near that level, but arm wrestling is one of those sports where like everyone can do it, kids can do it, and even the community itself in terms of being involved and like competing and doing all these kinds of things.
I just wonder if what we do in the States here, just like with the way we go about, I don't know how well we are at cultivating that. I mean, I know what in Canada with Devon and all that, they've now got it in high schools or whatever, which I think is actually like a good thing. I think that it would require something in the States to kind of get that into maybe the youth. I mean, obviously, who here has kids? I mean, Ricky, you do, and your children are exposed to it at the practices, and that's an awesome thing. But it'd be interesting, for the average folk, in the schools, to
that's how it would open the door for the Olympics, I believe, and that's what they've been trying to do forever. But
I think there needs to be something.
That's where I see arm wrestling. Like if it ever reaches its peak, I would hope for the peak being the Olympics. Like
it should be, but like
it's either you want to be UFC or you want to be the Olympics.
I'm sure Don, you're aware of that, right? You've probably heard that chatter for ages about the Olympics.
Yeah.
But then all you hear is that none of the Olympics pretty much say you guys cannot get your shit together. You guys cannot get your organizations to be in sync. You got Harkless and Waddles, and you got Bill, and you got all these things. If nobody can get in sync, they will not touch any sport that can't.
Most of the time, too. Again, with someone like the Whisperer, he brings other people to see that the sport even exists. Okay,
right. Very true.
I mean, even my wife even said at the last show, at the last tournament, when she's walking around the show, the people in the show acknowledged at the booth that they knew the Whisperer was there, which then in turn.
Some people know some of this stuff, so it's gonna be funny. But man, when I was just in Australia, I went to a fucking butcher. I had an arm wrestling hat on. Guy's like, "Yo, you're an arm wrestler? Yeah. Oh man, you know that guy, the Whisperer with the sunglasses?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I know him." But I'm saying is, like, so people know Yeah, of course. That's just the reality of it. You could be
Right.
anywhere. And so he's
But-
bringing more.
But he
And
brought
he gets a lot of hate because of that, but it's the truth. Just like Ryan Bowen in a certain way, but that's a different thing. But Bowen, you know, a lot of people come to it through him too. You know,
But he sparked attention in many different ways. It wasn't just about arm wrestling. It wasn't. Listen, it wasn't just about arm wrestling. He has a mask, which are his sunglasses. He always wears the sunglasses. He is never unmasked. Okay, pretty much
No,
at the
so you
table, that
will
type of thing.
absolutely
His whispering grabs a lot of gals' attention because they dig that whisper. Okay, so there's different aspects that he actually gets attention. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
I know
it's
that.
not just
Don,
about.
I think he grabbed your attention, Don. I think he grabbed your attention.
Yeah, he did.
I know he grabs ladies' attention. I know
he
that.
did grab my attention. You know why? Because the first time I saw him pull, I thought in my mind, I want to take this guy's wrist.
To me, what he represents though is the capitalizing of that aspect of the sport of everybody can do it. He is that connection.
And it does bring the average folk to it. I mean, you know what I mean? There's no question. And you know, at least it's it'll intrigue people. I mean, it's absolutely a good thing. There's no question of that. Without a doubt.
And his videos are average people that are polling, and they've never done it before. And he's coaching as they go, and people dig it. They're like, "Wow, you know, that guy's still, you know," and he's telling them.
I've never been a fan of people with the hate about that, because the thing is, it's like, how are you supposed to bring people? I mean, you know, it's one facet. Maybe there's another way too. You know, but down the line, there might be somebody else that has a different thing, but. It's definitely legit, and it's sad that it points, you know, people in the community have really tore into him for that, when it's like, that's, you know, whatever, you know, but only for down the line, some of those guys going, okay, he is legit. It is a good thing. But, you know, you're always going to get haters with everything.
Have you ever
but, you know, I agree with you, Don, on
talked about arm wrestling to your average person when you go to the store or anything like that? Most people kind of smile at you because they're like, arm wrestling? Because they don't
at best
even
they'll
really
bring
know
up
it.
over the top. At best, wasn't there a Stallone movie back in the day? Yeah,
but even then, even if you bring up over the top, they just believe that's a movie.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, is that a real thing? Arm wrestling is a real thing. Yeah,
they still until you tell them it's a real thing, they didn't really know if it was.
Yeah.
So there's
the part of what he does that sells the most, in my opinion, is the whole aesthetic, because he's not the biggest guy, right? And most of the guys that you see him on video are twice his size.
Well,
and
if the guy was as big as like fucking Tony Tomlinson, you'd be like, of course, this guy's a brute. He's taking people over. You know,
but
I agree. You know, but the image, he's a good-looking guy. He's got the sunglasses. It all works. It works perfectly. You know what I mean? So it's a flawless thing. It does work. I mean, he obviously had to put the work in to do it. It's easy. You know, I think other people have tried it. I think at one point Artem tried it but you know, it's not like it's the whole thing works. It works. There's no question, you know, and you're going to identify him anywhere, you know.
It's like the Schoolboy thing. I mean, Schoolboy and Alex, I mean, they have the biggest arm wrestling channel and the most monetized channel. And it's the same type of aesthetic. I mean, they had him out there looking like a young
I remember that. Yeah. Out in New York, I remember back in the day. Yeah. Yeah. And that had a different thing. While he's a tall kid, you know, it's still, looked like just a young guy doing this, you know, with his glasses on. And so that had that angle, you know. True.
Right.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, and I don't really know like the technical rankings or the organizations in this sport, but I kind of think of pickleball when I think of arm wrestling right now, because like pickleball is super cool. I mean, if you think of like UFC, you think of like maybe tennis, right? But then you got pickleball, and it's like this hugely popular thing that like anybody can do. Everyone's doing it. The older folks are doing it, just like in and you can be good at it and be older. You can be younger and you can be good at it. I think the best pickleball player in the world is like a 16-year-old girl. And it's just this huge fad where there's this very user friendly all the way down to the bottom where everyone can do it, and it's growing faster than a lot of things out there. And that's kind of what I love about arm wrestling, and partly why I think, we don't really need to be in a hurry to like push it in some kind of preconceived notion of an idea like UFC or anything like that. That's great if it becomes respected enough to be accepted into the Olympics. But I think the route that it's heading and where it's at, and the reason why we all love doing it is it's awesome. It's perfect. It's got an interesting organic balance. And if it did, I don't think, we'd be in it like we are. I think it is because of that concept that we can all be a part of it and train with world champions. And, it's ours.
That's one thing very unique to this sport. I'm sure we've all said this, like, I don't think there's many sports where you could be around greats of the sport, even within your own team, local greats, regional greats, guys showing up at seminars, like, fucking messaging a guy, that's a champ will actually reply to you. I mean, it's insane. You know what I mean? We see it down here, but anywhere. I'm sure guys in Arkansas, they're like, man, Michael Todd's so accessible. I mean, there's very few sports. You're not going to do that in basketball. You're not going to do that in these other things, man. It's unique and it's awesome.
It makes me think about something that I never really realized until you just said that. But a lot of the OGs that I've talked to, they think that the newer generation is going to mess up this beautiful sport that has been such a beautiful thing that we love so much. Because if it does grow like to this thing
that was kind of a point I made. That would be something you'd probably lose if it became like crazy.
You're not going to be. It's not going to be the same welcoming open arm committee, because these guys are going to be like top level. Like, I get paid from this contract.
Well,
be untouchable.
We do have a lot of people. Not everybody's showing up for tournaments. We do have but the garage guys still are out there, and the community attracts them, I believe. As far as the friendships, the get-togethers, people start looking forward to meeting up, whether it's once or twice a week, twice a month. And people start really looking forward to that. And I think that's a big attraction to it too, because you become a part of a group, a club,
a community, family.
But again, not all those guys are even looking to even worry about if they're ranked or placed in any category or anything. They just love the sport. And they enjoy it, just coming to their house or going to a friend's house, again.
It's very obviously very grassroots, blue collar sport. I mean, the fear if it did get huge, down the line, or practice is just going to be like the Ivan Drago scenes in Rocky IV. Is it just going to be some like high tech training center? No, seriously, like, you know what I mean? You're just gonna have the best guys. I mean, and that's it. You know what I mean? And they'll be untouchables. You know what I mean? I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, sure, it's like definitely one of those things that even through stuff we've all been through, that family and that community has gotten us through. I'm sure we've all been through something and stepped into that garage, whether it's at the compound, whether it's at Alpha, wherever it is. And like, for those 2-3 hours, you were able to forget what was going on in your life. Whatever bad or those people around you got you through it. You know what I mean? And then that's a huge part, the family and the community. But I'm sure, like everything, things evolve. There will still be that, but at the highest level, it would probably be very different. I think guys like Devin will always practice in that Ottawa High Hookers garage, no matter what. But I think a new breed of young guys would probably maybe become elitist a little bit, and maybe not be in that same situation.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Josh, what were you saying a second ago?
About what?
I don't know. I thought you were saying something.
Don't you bet what?
I probably said something. Who knows?
Oh, okay. All right.
I said, the things that we brag about loving so much, we could lose.
That's true. Absolutely. Don, I have a question. Martin mentioned how it's been speculated that there was tournaments were bigger at some point, right? And I've heard that a lot too. So the part I'm curious about, just to kind of like understand and put a gauge on growth, or what it might look like. So the tournaments in the late 80s that you were competing in, how often were they? How often were there any tournaments, say, on the western side of the country?
Well, actually, we had even more up here going on too, and some of them were in local fairs.
Like how many times a year would you say there would be an available tournament
locally?
Yeah,
locally, just around me, I was probably doing 3 to 4.
Okay.
Okay, and that was
Somewhat
locally.
Close.
And then
Didn't you guys have a
ones,
lot more
other
up
ones,
in Reno back in the day in Tahoe, Don?
I'm not counting Tahoe. Tahoe, I wasn't counting that as local.
Okay.
But yeah, we did the Tahoe where they did the Biltmore Hotel, and they had
Mhm.
the Pro-Am going on over there too on the South Shore for years and years. But yeah, locally probably there was a handful of local ones. Now we only got a couple of them pretty much. In fact, it was down to one until Jody started doing some, I guess, up here, and now we've had a few more. Unless you did there's a different organization that would throw one over at another fair that was a frog jump deal. And but that was a different organization where they did a double start, a go kind of thing.
Okay.
And so
But
that
what
was
about
different.
the whole state? Because all I know is up here we seem to be running somewheres around one a month.
Right. Well, now I still think it's just getting more a little more organized locally, you might say. I mean, Bill is bigger than what he was back then. Whether he did 2 or 3 small tournaments or not, he's still bigger now with UAL than the stuff that he was doing back then. So yeah, but the numbers were still good back then. I mean, it just seems like
how about the turnouts?
To
How
me,
about the turnouts at the tournament?
To me, what's changed the most is just the way people are going about training and talking about it, and with the media, the audience again is still growing. And it's weird because even though the sport's been around forever, again, people don't know it's a sport. They don't know. They really don't know that we're doing this and it's serious. And because of that, you really don't have much of an audience. I mean, you got to grab an audience somehow in order to have people to view. Because if you don't have anybody viewing and no one's watching you, who cares? And then it's just a personal thing, right? So, and we're kind of settled into the personal thing because we don't really worry about the audience that much as far as touching them. And because it is kind of a personal thing amongst us. I mean, it is a one-on-one battle across the table, and it's still growing though, but it seems like it's really like you were saying, Kane, it's super slow. It just seems slow, but it's still growing. It is still getting better. Again, everybody talking right here. Yeah. Okay. And Ricky, I agree that yes, it is still the same shit with different faces, but we're not giving up. We're not giving up to get somewhere. Okay. I mean, I even told AT at that last tournament, that was the first time I met him, and I said, it was his videos, seeing those at the time of me looking like an old man in the mirror, all that combined just had a little bit of influence there. He did to make me want to, because again, he was pulling nobodies. He was pulling everybody's, everybody out there. And you could tell because their butt sticking out and everything else. And, they have no form actually that he's pulling. So, but he made it enjoyable, pleasant. And again, I was like, man, this guy makes me want to arm wrestle. I want to see if I can take his hand. I mean, again, it was there. That was there. So somehow we need to grow the audience. The audience has to come in somehow, and they have to know that this is a sport, guys. I know all the world out there. If you can get into ribbon twirling, if you can get into curling, if you can get into cornhole, come on, you can get behind arm wrestling, can't you? Right? I mean, what are we
need
saying?
another movie,
Right?
a serious movie, a life, a movie about somebody's life and controversy that people can actually relate to.
Right.
And then it transitions into arm wrestling, and and
You
they
know,
get curious and they go to
well, we're
YouTube.
hoping-
They see
you
it,
know,
like, man, Dad, I
we're
want to try
hoping
that.
this Devin Merritt documentary that he did called The Arm Wrestler. We're hoping that thing does that.
Yeah.
I mean, Devin is a super captivating guy. Obviously, a lot of people that I talked to, at least, they say they got into it because of watching Devin. So maybe that documentary with all the big, John Statham and all them guys helping him do it. Maybe that gets the audience that we need for new people to see it.
You know who I thought did a great job, and I only saw it a few months ago, and I feel like nobody's talked about it, was, if any of you saw Nano Cruz doing the Puller magazine documentaries, have you seen those?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Nano Cruz with the Puller, he put like 1 or 2 out, and I think he did a whole like 45 minutes on like Jacob Abbott. I think the guy up in Washington State. You can find it. I think it's on YouTube. The quality of this like 30-40 minute doc, just dealing with him, just dealing with Jacob Abbott, was as good as anything I've seen on ESPN or anything. The aerial shots, the drone shots, Jacob's life, his cars, all this. And I remember looking at that going like, man, like this alone would be enough, I think, because when I was looking at it, I was like, you could show this to the average person. And even if they weren't into arm wrestling, after watching that, you'd be interested in this because you were interested in him as a character. And it wasn't UFC shit. It was just him. And it was done incredibly well. And it's just like, I'm sure we've all been there. Like, I've gotten into like a musician. I may not even like their music, but I'm interested in their story or this person, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, I'm kind of intrigued, or I'm intrigued that I don't skateboard, but like, oh, this was an interesting thing about this skateboarder, and it takes you there. And I thought that you guys could check it out on Nano Cruz's thing, but it's for Puller magazine. I think he maybe did 1 or 2. It's phenomenal. And I think stuff like that would really help too. Make people not think like, oh, they're all just meatheads, just breaking arms, you know what I mean? Or, nobody wants to believe that it's such a diverse community of people. They don't believe that people are bringing their kids to tournaments, and that it's not just people like, breaking beer cans over their heads. We've all had to explain that to people. I know that.
We had that not too long ago. I mean, we had Pulling John. That's honestly, that's the reason I'm here. One night in bed, I was scrolling through Netflix, and sure enough, I saw a little yellow picture of a guy with his arm up, and it said Pulling John. And I was like, what the hell is this? What? And then I clicked on it, and it said, oh, about this, average looking guy that, just owns a world of arm wrestling. And I was like, no way. Sure enough, looked into it. The following week, I ended up at UAL 5, I believe it was. Not even knowing who I was in the presence of. John Berzine, Corey Miller, Herman Stevens, the Leviathan, Alan Fisher. I met them all. Michael Todd. I was shaking their hands like, hey, you're a big guy, not even knowing what they meant to the sport. And I'm just like, oh, these guys are cool. And then I saw like some stick figure guys with like massive forearms. And I'm like, what? And I noticed that one thing about all of them. Every single one had massive forearms. And I was like, I'd like to have that. I started asking questions, and then started, make my way around, but it was because of pulling John and my ex who I was with at the time watched it with me, and she's like, hey, that looked pretty cool, you should check that out. And and why? It was because of the way they presented it, the way they brought it to the world. They made dramatic, and they showed the lives of John Brzenk and Travis Badgen, Alexi Vovoda, and we need that again. I can agree. Instead of these little one-offs like that one arm wrestling video or movie that they did in Japan for that one guy.
Oh, I remember. But then they turned it into like a comedy almost. Yeah.
And it kind of like took us back a step. It was supposed to be like, a thing for us. And then it ended up taking us down a notch. And I was like, wow. Yeah. Okay. So the new crowd looked at that and laughed at us. Wow.
Yeah, the WAL, when it was on ESPN, it was kind of the same type of thing. I mean, I always knew about Over the Top and shit like that. But one day I'm scrolling through ESPN and I see WAL Arm Wrestling Championship. And I'm like, what? I turn it on. And the way they did it, it was like a tournament, but it was the semifinals. So you only got to see a few matches. They were all best of 3. But the way they presented it, I mean, I was like, wow, it was entertaining. They did the little 5-minute bio talking to each athlete, and they would talk a little smack and say this or that. The commentary was amazing. Neil Pickup, that's where I first, heard of him. The way they did that, I thought was the most professional and entertaining way that I've seen the sport presented. And that's what, got me starting to watch all the videos and everything. Then I found Armband,
Yeah.
But it was just
like I said, check out if anybody could remember Puller Magazine on Jacob Abbott. You might be able to link it through somewhere far in Nano Cruz's Facebook, but it's Puller Magazine, and I watched it on you. It was just phenomenal. Blew me away. I was like, and I think I wrote something to him. I was like, you have got to keep making these things. I don't know if he is. I have no idea, but I think he made 2. But it was the one on Jacob Abbott. And I was like, this is tops. I mean, it was, for a documentary, like you see those ESPN documentaries, on a thing, it was better than that. And it was like the Arm Wars version of a documentary. And it wasn't like hype. It wasn't flash. It wasn't bullshit.
No,
it was really good. And it made me like go like, I'm interested in this Jacob Abbott character. I'm interested in this man, his life, and what makes him an arm wrestler. And
once you like somebody really and you watch something where you like the character or their story, you like everything they do. I mean, just like you're saying about the music, if you like a character or somebody, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now their music means more, or their sport means more, whatever they're doing. Yeah,
you're respected even if you don't do it. You'll be like, I respect this. I may not really like the tune, but like, I respect this guy. I respect what he's doing. And I think the same thing. You don't necessarily have to be a puller or take it up, but you'll be interested in it. Be like, oh, these are some interesting guys. So
that's why Devin has, I believe, he brings in such a huge fan base to the sport that don't arm wrestle at all.
Yeah,
because they're investing in Devin. The human, the character.
And that may be the case with most sports, right? I think they always say, like, how many people, even with big sports, actually play basketball? How many people actually play football? How many ever did? You don't even know. So,
I want to see sprinkled into that power, because once you have a person, a character that the mainstream fan base can get connected and get behind. The part I really want to see in this sport is more of the educational factor, just sprinkled. It would achieve the same thing if it was incorporated into schools, of course, too. But that's just in terms of fan base of sports. That's one of the biggest separations I see of ours, because when you turn on a baseball game or when you turn on a football game or whatever, everyone loves to get together in a room or play fantasy football or whatever. They're all involved in the rules. They get it and they're entertained by it, and they're invested in the humans that are playing that sport. But if you go to like one of Devin's videos and go in the comment section and like the shit you see, like, it's hilarious. They have no idea. They are so disconnected from what's happening in the sport, and that's part of what makes it boring. Is if you're watching it and you don't understand all this stupid petty shit that's happening in the setup, you don't understand why this guy flash pinned this guy, that's so much bigger.
He's cheating. He's pinning it to hit.
I remember the first videos watching, or maybe it was like Ryan Bowen commentating, and he's just going to town talking about like, oh yeah, a guy lost his pronation. You could tell he's not rising enough. You're like, is this real? Like, what the hell is he talking about? It all looks the same to me, And that's being passionate about it in those initial stages. And you're like, well, I guess this is real, what he's saying, but like, what? Like, it all just looks like the same thing, but yeah, you have to kind of, yeah, for some
people,
arm wrestling
when they come to
used to
their
be
first
like,
practice is realizing there's more to it.
Yeah.
When you actually grip up, and that's what kind of lights the fire. And it's going to have to be small doses, and it's going to take time.
Of course,
but just the fundamental level, just the basics of understanding what the hell is happening in arm wrestling.
Yeah,
is a big deal. I got to get a really good dose of that with our last episode with Gabriela Vasconcelos.
Okay.
We just did one little clip video of her giving her prediction of Devin versus Hermes. And I'm already getting like the mountain of Devin fan comments starting to come in. They're just they're so freaking ridiculous. They're hilarious. They're like, who is this woman? This woman knows nothing about arm wrestling.
Of course, yeah.
About Devin. Like, dude, about like a world champion.
Yeah.
Smack your ass, dude.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's so true.
you all know that arm wrestling used to be on the Wide World of Sports, right?
Yeah. ABC back in the day. Yeah.
Right.
That went
was
on
the
for
most
years. When you go on
watched
YouTube,
show.
there's so many years of that up on YouTube.
It was
It's
the
awesome.
most watched show for like 20 something years.
Yeah.
So,
I used to love watching that. I watched
That's what I
that
was
when I was a
saying. We're
kid.
not even at that level again yet. But a lot of it is consistency. Like you're saying, how the organizations can't get together. We can't, pick one to kind of roll with or whatever.
Because if you think about the fact that used to be on, and it was on for ages. I know my grandfather used to watch it. I remember him watching it on the old tube things, you go on YouTube, you'll find worldwide, early 70s, even stuff in the 60s, and it's like,
Martin, the tube
what's that?
thing is called TV.
I know, that's what I'm saying. The old tube TVs, the big backs.
We used to watch them.
Yeah, it's crazy, but now, I mean, I guess Wall might have been the closest thing to having it on, but that's, that at that point you have like a 200 stations, so it's not the same. You think back in those days,
right?
ABC, like whatever. When I grew up, Channel 7, it was like there was only like four stations when we were growing up.
And
so
now everything is streaming, so nobody even watches regular TV.
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
so there's one other small topic that I wanted to bring up, and I like that Ricky's on here to contribute to this, because so Josh and I were talking last night a bit about the dynamic of monetary aspects involved in teams, paying to train, and so the general consensus of a lot of the teams, including our own, that Alpha Empire, Ricky, that don't charge to train with, is I remember that speech you all gave me when I first came in. More than likely you're going to quit in a few months, Kane. But if you do decide to stay, because they were just straight up about it. The majority of the people that come through, they're right back out the door, even if they're really good. And so I saw that as a challenge. But either way, the big idea that was kind of put across is what you put in and how much dedication you show is what we'll put into you, and will help grow you. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it kind of weeds out the bullshit and everything like that. And but Josh and I got off into like a really interesting conversation about, okay, so if you're brand new, right? And say you have made a decision with yourself, you want to go through the amateur class, and you have a goal to eventually pull in the open class. And maybe after that, you want to move up the rankings. And maybe after that, you want to be a state champion or something like that. You're this new person. Do you want to, would you be more, or see it a good thing to train with a team that charges to train you? where you have that monetary commitment to each other. Does that make sense? Where, you know, the coach is actually being paid for their time to train that person, and they know that it's not bullshit on the person who's actually wanting to be trained because they're spending their hard-earned money to do it. I've heard this discussed here and there, but that conversation kind of brought us down to through a rabbit hole of pros and cons. That said, let's start with you, Ricky. What do you think about that?
Well, what it comes down to is we're not there yet. We don't have the fan base for that, so we can't even really see that as a viable option. But if we did, the coaches in said situation would need to have some kind of merit behind them. Who have they trained? What have they, accomplished? Were they ever, a world champion or anything like that? I know of a couple. I don't know that I'm comfortable saying their names, but I know of a couple world performing and world champion athletes that have charged, and I believe still do charge for private sessions, one-on-one. As far as team trainings go, like in a team setting, I believe that's when they release that, and they'll train you if you come to them. But I can't say I'm for that yet, just because I feel like we're trying to grab at whatever we can. I don't really see that as an option at all, really, right now. Like, I mean, people like, working with me because I'm really good at teaching people, from what I've been told. Everyone likes coming to me with questions because of the way I like, deducing arm wrestling. Like I say, I may not be, the strongest guy in the building, but chances are I'm going to be the smartest, because I love breaking down arm wrestling to the singular muscle fibers of, why did this guy drop his pinky a little bit lower and pull it out? Why did, this guy rise his thumb up in the setup, and all that kind of stuff is really what I like. And, that makes the whole, thing exciting for me. And it takes a lot to get there, yeah. But even at my point, I can't see charging really anybody to train.
Ricky,
there's been people that have asked me for one. Yes,
Ricky, what if I was a new guy, say, and I felt I wasn't getting what I wanted out of everything, and I offered you money for one-on-one? Would you take it? And would you give me more attention then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because then I see it as, you kind of forced it on someone, like going to your buddy and saying, hey man, I know you know about cars. Can you put this, my new tires on or my new rims on? I don't know anything about it. I gotta pay you for your time, man, because whatever. Your buddy's most likely to be, all right, cool, I gotta pull time out away, or maybe not. It's kind of
the reason why I say it like that is because then I would feel like I would get the attention that I would want, then I guess, to try and progress, in the sport.
You feel like you earned it by purchasing it, is what you're saying, through a seemingly a contract.
That you would be more dedicated to me.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? So in other words, like if I was paying you, I would know that you're not just giving me a oh hum tip here. You're going to really put it to me. You're going to really put it on the line. You're going to really make me try hard and do hard, or try to get better, versus, hey, just, put some more pressure here, or try going back more, or just going like that type of information. I think where you, like you said, you would be more detailed with them.
Yes. And, as it stands right now, there have been a couple people that have, I'd say purchased my time, right? For me to work with them. And, they have given me a couple bucks for, whether it was gas or my time or whatever it may have been, because they really trust in the way I work with people. And I never took that as, hey, you know what, I should make this a thing from now on. You know, I have that under my belt as I've done all the studying. I've been at home with my family and, you know, spending my time away from them just to really look into how everything works. Now I deserve to, you know, charge people. My thing is, if you really love the sport, I want you to love it as much as I do. So I'm going to give you everything I got at no cost. And I think we need as much of that as possible, because a lot of guys are doing it just because they want to see what they can get for them. I don't give a shit about me. When I'm happy is when the guys that I've taught go on to do something and do it well. That it's like watching your kids grow. You know, that's why I got a couple guys out there calling me the arm wrestling dad and stuff like that. It's because when I see a passion, I want to exploit that to the fullest. I want you to be amazing, because then that makes me feel good. That means I helped you get to the next point. And, you know, I don't have to say, oh yeah, I did that for so-and-so. No, it's just, I know for me, like I helped. I helped grow that sport because I made this guy better and that guy better and that guy better, and they could teach the next ones how to get better and keep growing like that. So that I see that as my contribution. But monetarily, I can't see forcing it as a thing unless it's offered by someone who's like, hey, I need it. I need that one-on-one, you know, whatever kind of situation.
I was thinking that, like, you know, Kane, the nature of the thing that you initially proposed with Ricky about was that I think that the paying situation for the training, I think, you know, that could probably work if you were running a situation. I don't know how well it would work here, but like the mindset, like how the Latvian team, like Coach Ray's gym with Giannis, you know, I think that there is a fee there, but it's also, I think I had this conversation one time with Derek, because I was watching a podcast, I think where Derek and Devin were talking about the difference in, like, you know, could you ever do that European style thing? Like I know Krasimir, Coach Ray do, where like the guys are coming in like 5-6 days a week. And, you know, one night it's just like, we're all working pronation and we're just kind of, you know, working statics, like 5 inches from the losing position to here, you know, and then the next night it's, you know, we're working cupping and just ready goes. And I'm sure the structure works well, but I think like in a country like that, you know, young guys right now will go into a gym like that and they already have mentors. They're already like, these are all world champions and this is what we're doing on Monday. This is what we're doing on Tuesday and Wednesday. And these young guys are like, hey, you know, this is what I want to do with my life. I know government will finance some of these guys. I know like Krasimir and those guys, they're funded by the government. So that's all they have to do. I think it could work here, but I think you'd have to have that entire mindset, you know, and like Ricky said, you know, who are these guys training? Do they know what they're doing? Or is it just, you know, you're grabbing anybody on a Monday night? And is our mindset here in this country, I feel arm wrestling here is just very different than other places. You know, you see like what they got in Kazakhstan, what all these young people doing it. I think, you know, we're more grinders. We're more that like, hey, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon kind of thing. Or I'm sure, Ricky, you've seen it. We all know, like, you know, some guys don't want to really learn, you know, they just want to grind, you know, they don't want to hear nothing about a setup. They just want to grind. And God forbid you talk about like, hey, why don't we just work these positions, you know, a few times repetitively? Nobody wants to hear about it. You know what I mean? The grinding's good, but I think if you were going to pay, I think you have to really lock down a real solid format, you know, where I'm not saying like a school, but like, yeah, maybe more like a jiu-jitsu school. You know what I mean? You have to really lock it down. And I don't know if we're there yet. Like Ricky said, are we there yet? Is that how people are viewing this? You know, I don't know about in this country not viewing it that way, you know?
Yeah, no, the only ones that have asked for my training in time are just people that are already pretty well cemented, that just want to get the little, you know, kinks out. And they come to work with me. But as far as any new guy, I pretty much, you know, get them from other people by word of mouth. Oh, this guy, he knows about all this and go work with him. And I'll get them and I'll see how they're feeling about it and everything. I'll kind of give them the once over, like how passionate are they about it? And, you know, are they going to stay? And the longer they stay and the longer they keep chasing me down for knowledge is the deeper I'll go with them. Because I mean, I can't pull away from everyone else to give this guy who's probably only going to come twice and leave. There's no want for anyone, no matter how nice of a person you are, to do that, because it's a waste of time, right? I mean, what is that guy going to do? You know?
Yeah. So it's you know,
No,
and
I've been saying it for a while. Like the thing, we go to every practice, and it's just like Martin said, it's a Saturday or Saturday, Sunday afternoon thing. It's kind of like a vibe, right? And there might be, you know, guys around like you and Derek and Lorenzo that train people at the different places, or Mike up north, but we don't see it yet. Like martial arts, for example, like a dojo, like where you come in. And we have 6 tables lined up, and we all set our elbows up, and your coach is walking behind you and tapping your legs to make sure you're set up straight. Don't even move before you're set up straight. Okay, everybody, back pressure, boom. Everybody, cup, everybody. And just like they do in a dojo where you're all hitting in uniform and you're getting used to the kata, I think that part is missing, and that part becomes interesting when you're talking about financial, because then if you had like a dojo or a school type setting, then it becomes plausible. You know what I mean?
I personally, what you're saying, I would personally teach there for free, just to have 5 dedicated guys that are set up at tables exactly how you say, attached to bands, attached to springs with load sensors and stuff like that, that give you readings to see, you know, what's this guy actually doing. Because if you're actually, you know, just pulling on a band or something like that, it's like, is this guy progressing? Is it not? You know, how are we going to tell? Does a band look a little more wore out today? But, you know, where does that money come from to get those springs and tables and stuff like that? You have to have that initial investment.
You know, and I
maybe
don't
not
want
like a fee to do it each time, but maybe like a group, like union dues, almost like a group fee that we all pitch it. Not even a fee, but a pitch where we all pitch into a pot that helps for these things, to where we can all take our training to the next level, or our group. You know, each guy pitches in $10 a month or whatever it is to the team pot, and it goes for new jerseys or new banners or new tables or new.
I brought up that to Derek myself a couple times, but there's a couple reasons why that can't work. It goes, you know, into the whole bunch of details, but we've tossed that discussion around a couple times over the years, and we keep circling back to we just can't, because we're not there. I mean, you know, it's especially in California of all places in the United States, life moves too fast to be asking that of anyone. Now in these like Russian, you know, in like Russia or Latvia, where, you know, what else is there to do besides arm wrestling? What, like go roll a tire down a hill? You know, there's not much to do out there. So that's why these guys are, when it comes to arm wrestling, the best, and we do not deny that at all. Yeah, we got our freaks here in America that are just, you know, they were born for it and they found it and they made it. But those guys, you know, person for person, in general, that's why they do it, because they have nothing else. So they find these things and they work really hard as a group, like Martin was saying, in those specific settings of trainings, and that's why they become who they are. But in America, specifically California, that ain't gonna happen.
Right.
You know, I'm an optimist, man. I'm always
I know. I'm a realist.
Nice, right? But no, act as if, man. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I come from a marketing and advertising background, and like that's just always what I taught people. Act as if, fake it till you make it. So you're right, we're not there, but we won't be there until we start acting like we're supposed to be there. You know, and not to say that just about that one topic, like I think people should start charging for practices. That's not what I'm saying at all. But even like the different growth things, like with your ideas or other people's ideas, until we like start rolling that ball and implement it, people aren't really going to have an option. You know, we got to give them options. We take on the goal is the chance we have to succeed.
Right.
You know?
When you start a restaurant, it's pretty much a given. Everybody in the business knows that at least the first 3 years you're going to be in the red. You're losing money. There's a period, like fake it till you make it. There's a period that you're gonna, you know, have to, you know, grind in the mud before something can work sometimes if it's something new. but what I'm kind of gathering from a lot of this is, so from my own experience of only training with, my team is Alpha Empire, but of course we get out there, we travel with other teams, and they've all been free. And when I think of our practices here, I don't really think of them in terms of like serious clinic trained practices. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think it's a great thing for community and outreach, because we're always getting new people in, we're introducing, and we're, weeding out the people that are going to stay, that are going to go. Some of them are there to just hang out and, enjoy the experience, build each other up. But those select few that are on their path of seriousness, that want to grow, like say myself, if I'm serious about making any particular step in this sport, I need to be self-activated to go pull Ricky aside to a table. And Ricky knows this all the time. I'm like, can I get 5 minutes with you? Derek knows can I get 5 minutes with you? And we really are we have to be advocates of our own path to improve. And that does not, I think that's all great, especially to bring in new arm wrestlers, have fun, have that community, and grow together. But I also do see that value of, I guess I'd call it more of a clinic or something like that. You could call it an arm wrestling dojo or something like that. But for those people that are serious, that are very serious about wanting to progress, and they'd have to have a teacher that they could put stock in 100%.
Alpha Empire School of Arm Wrestling.
And
listen,
I'm going to
It has a
interject
ring
here.
to it.
I mean,
It has a ring to it.
let me just
obviously I've pulled with a few teams. I started with Alpha, and then I've been with the Compound, and I do want to say this. And like I said, but his situation is set for that. With Christian, like with the Compound, it's at his home. And he has practices pretty much every night. Saturday's the big one, but on Monday through Saturday, he has a core group of guys, that will come, and they'll mainly work, table, like heavy back pressure. I could be wrong about the days, like on Monday, compound lifts on Tuesday, more wrist flexion on that day, with like a finishing of like maybe 20-30 minutes on the table, not like all out grinding, before a tournament, like working on ready goes. And I commend him for that. At the same point, he's not charging people for it. It's a good thing. And that's not to say anything against other teams, Kyle, or anything. I'm just saying, I just wanted to point out that I do give Christian credit for doing that. Like I said, it's his home, and he has his job and his work, and he tries to, put that out there for guys. But at the same point, he can't bend people's arms to do it. The people that are showing are the ones that are committed, and those might be the same people that would pay for that too. But it's arm wrestling. Like I said, it's not that comment to say what I appreciate that Christian is doing is not to say anything against any other team. We most of what we do arm wrestling is a Saturday or a Sunday or a weeknight, and we all get together and we do our thing. And we got guys like Ricky, and we got guys like Lorenzo and ET and Kane, like, guys that have been there that are more than willing to help, but a compound will get Dallas and Scott Partington, and it's awesome, and that's a wonderful thing. And Ricky, how many times I've grabbed you and said, I really appreciate how much time you've given me, at Bruheim or wherever. So, these are, it's just, but at the same point, we're probably just not there yet, but it would be a great thing down the line, that we could have structure, and within that structure, you probably have even less injuries, or parents or people that could say, hey, this is a real sport because it's being taught in a certain way, and like we said, you see in Europe, these guys are phenoms, and they have a hell of a structure, man. They and putting in way more work. They're doing the same shit every day. They're grinding every day, but they have it controlled. You know what I mean? They know, like, hey, this is a 50% day. This is a max day, or whatever, they're doing. And you have honest guys in your club, that are champions. They have to be world champions, but they're still veterans. They're still good guys. There's guys here right now that you know what you're doing, and but we're just not there yet fully.
You just nailed it, though.
Okay.
So we're not there yet, and yet we are, and I'm going to show you how.
Okay.
So everything we're talking about, a school or a compound where everything is structured, that leads to getting respect and for people to consider it a sport, more notoriety. You can't achieve that with grown men. You can achieve that with the youth.
Yeah, absolutely.
But tomorrow's men, like a travel ball. My sons both play travel ball. Elijah's a killer baseball player. He drives me crazy because he doesn't want to play anymore. That's how we found arm wrestling. So it's cool. Yeah. He loves it. I support him. He's not doing anything wrong. So long as he's within the boundaries of ethical living, he can have those choices, and that's cool. But in travel ball, and I coached for over 15 years, it is structured. There are certain practices. There are things you have a program, what you're going to do today, what you're going to do tomorrow. And then on this day, you're in the cages and we're working on the tee and we're working off the pitching machine and we're working off of live pitching, and it's structured. And then you go play tournaments, right? And then you come back, hey, this is what we didn't do well. We're going to work on that next week. So this, in the context of arm wrestling for a youth group, 4 or 5 kids. Ricky, I'm impressed with everybody at Alpha. Like, everybody has really treated us like family, which is really what's attracted me to this sport. The last experience that we have was with Ricky. I posted a little bit of it. He reminds me of a baseball coach, big time. He coaches the way I coach in baseball. It's all kind of encouragement, but it's not encouragement when the kid's doing something wrong. You just have the right approach in correcting. But when he does it right, you yourself are excited. That inspires the child. See what I'm saying? And I was so taken. I was like, I got to post some of this stuff. I got to post it. So, and I do that because, it's my son. I'm proud of him. I love everybody at Alpha. But I want people to see. This is what we experience. You guys got to try it out. I'm still trying to get my 18-year-old to come down. He's an idiot. So I love him to death, and I'm just kidding, tongue in cheek. But so I can imagine, Kaleo comes over on Tuesdays. I had to cancel today because I was doing this. So I got him and Elijah, and they're working. They're working on the cables. They're working on lifting weights. They're doing stuff. They only do it once a week. But I can do that easy with 5 or 6 kids and structure it. You know what I mean? If we had something like that and parents saw that, you see it within about a year. You'll see them all come out of the woodworks. Mom, I want to do that. I don't want to play football anymore. I don't want to play baseball anymore. You'll see
their friends are doing
and
it.
then there'll be a time period of 10 years where it will grow, man. I'm telling you, it's not going to start with fully grown men. It's not for what some of us are hopeful. I get it, what you're saying. You don't think it's going to grow that big and whatnot. And you might be right. You might be right.
Maybe
but if
in
it were
private training,
grow,
but
if it were to grow, it would start with the 12-year-old, the 11-year-old. You know what I mean? And you have it structured to where it garnishes respect, where the parents come out and okay, how much am I paying for a month for 2 sessions a week? Yeah, you're going to pay like $80 a month or $120, just like travel ball. It's nothing. It's nothing. You know what I mean? 120 a month or whatever. As long as they see quality and progression, parents have no problem investing in their children.
Right.
It's keeping them off the street. It's keeping them having good fellowship with other like-minded individuals. It's a positive atmosphere. It's about making the body and the mind stronger and become as one. And you get to know people and the experiences that they've been. We all come from different backgrounds, but we have a common ground, which is just freaking incredible. So that's what it is, man. I'd really like to see that happen in arm wrestling.
Get it with the youth. You do, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That was a really good point, Todd.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
that's how you get to the Olympics, Josh.
I know
that's what we get it. That's how you get it in high schools. There's got to be something to look at that's respected. And I'm not saying that what we're doing now is not respected. It's just that we're already convinced
Yeah.
We're not trying to convince ourselves.
Right.
We're trying to, you know what I mean? Mr. and
Fair.
Mrs. Wilson down the street who has a son named Ryan. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do travel ball baseball, or we're gonna do arm wrestling, we're gonna do wrestling. What are we gonna do?
All of my ideas from the beginning have been to focus on the youth and the amateurs, the people that don't have the spotlight. I said it, the reason because the amateurs is because whenever you do something with them involved and you put them in the spotlight, they're going to show 100 people compared to if I have some high level guy on there, he's not going to go and look, hey, look at this video I'm in. He's not going to do that, but the unknown guy will. The same thing with the kids. And I've said it from the beginning, it's like the biggest way to do a growth is to get the people that are going to get excited about them being a part of it. Right. And so, I mean, yeah, these are exactly what we all need to do. I mean, not, us, but like the community, us. Yeah. We all need to, focus on.
This past weekend was proof of that, because I went through it with a couple pros that were still there on Sunday at the UAL tournament, and pretty much everyone agrees the amateur pulling was way more exciting than the professional side, because you already knew where everyone was kind of sitting in the pro side. And we saw Reg come up and we're like, all right, that class is done. We saw Ole, okay, he's got this. But in the amateurs, it's like, who is that guy? And then you see him do some crazy stuff, and he don't quite know all of his positioning, so he's doing some weird stuff, and it's like, oh, is that gonna work for him? And then they get off stage, and it's not like, oh man, he's like, oh, I lost, but that guy was strong, and like I stood by the stage almost the whole time because I was excited to talk to these guys about what was going on and how they felt and everything, and these guys were like excited, win or lose. Whereas a pro, I was part of it, so I saw, I saw all the faces, and I was like, okay, the pro side, everyone was like, oh man, I lost, whatever. But I mean, the AMs were way more fun. Sunday was.
I know all my shit was going wrong, and then at the end, I got like 2 over something, and I was like, it was all good, Yeah, it's true. You're right. You're so right.
I am all for the youth, and that's why you guys see when I have my kids at practice and everything, I'll tell them, hey, you want to get on the table, don't be afraid. These guys are big, but they're cool, because I mean that's what we need. We need the youth, because kids talk to other kids. As adults, when's the last time you talked to your best friend? Your other friends. How often do you contact your boys? You see him.
Josh, you got your son, right? Man. Your son's he's all about it, man.
How often do we talk to other people about what we got going on besides online, all this little stuff online that we do here and there?
With the people
but that's between our little community. Now the kids, what'd you do this weekend? The teacher's going to ask them, and then they say, I was arm wrestling at my dad's practice. Some other kid hears that could be the spark that ignites and changes.
My son specifically has gotten literally every kid in his grade interested in arm wrestling, because he lives and breathes it. That's all he does. That's all he talks about. They can't believe that he can beat every kid in the school. It doesn't matter how big they are. Like they're 2 grades ahead of him. He can beat them, no problem. So all the kids are excited about, and like anything, they all play the same game. Like whatever game is popular on the schoolyard or whatever they're talking about, they all want to do it. They all eat the same snacks. They all watch the same shows. They wear the same shoes. I mean, kids.
Now, if they had a place to go that was structured for youth, because it could be a little intimidating for a mom and dad to say, hey, let's go in, and some of you guys look a little intimidating, right? You don't bother me, but they're gonna entrust their children with all of these men. It's a little shady, right? It's not, but it is. Okay. And so if it was structured like a baseball practice or a football practice, something like that, it would grow fast. And they would lead the way. We need those young pioneers to and the thing is, I mean, and I look at guys like Blanca's son. That kid is a horse. He goes right through Elijah like he's butter, like he doesn't even have any resistance. And he's only 14 too. We need these guys. He's not really sure he wants to do it, but he's just, and then you got Mega Mike's son and all these kids, I'm telling you, man, Kaleo, he was doing two things. He does Muay Thai, right? Which he's been doing it for about 3 years now. And he was doing something else, and he put that on the shelf because he loves arm wrestling so much. Because he had come the same day that Elijah came for his first day, and Kane was super influential in that first day, kicking Elijah off. And because now they're building a relationship, he's made the choice to go full force with arm wrestling. See, that's how it'll work, but it'll work on a bigger level with a structured physical entity of arm wrestling tables and pulley systems, normal weights, and all these different things with guys like Kane and Ricky and Josh and Don's gonna come out. I'm gonna invite him, special guest, Don Moorman, don't bet against him, and all this type of stuff. We do these things. We bring special guests. Special guest this week, Derek Smith, Larry Wheels. Are you kidding me? It will grow, and it's okay to charge. And as far as charging for the arm wrestling practices, you don't have to charge. You don't want to take the family atmosphere away. What you do is, hey, we're looking to get a new table, put a cup there, and people just donate as they're able. If you're not able, don't do it. If you're able, do it. When you can do it, do it. And if you can't, don't. Build up the money. Hey, look, guys, we got a new table. It garnishes inspiration. Okay. Hey, we want to go ahead and get some more resistant bands. You know, we want to get some more this and that. You just donate.
Everybody can pitch in for
free will. You just donate.
Yeah.
No pressure. We're all family.
Yeah.
But we're going to come together and get stuff done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing to ask, like each of us to help one another grow. Like that's what we do anyway. Like the whole community is that's the beautiful part about it, is everybody wants everybody else to grow. Like I think it's the coolest thing when I watch somebody level up or beat this guy that they wanted to beat or whatever. Like I'm super jazzed about it. But yeah, it's not a bad thing to put out a cup or even to let everybody know, like, hey man, like whenever we can, let's, help out to get this, because everybody's going to use the equipment anyway. We're all, and we can't rely on one person to provide it all. Like I said, if we all hop in the truck together and we go 5 hours to a tournament, everybody says, how much do you want for gas? We all pitch in to get to the destination,
That's it, man.
Yeah.
You guys are an awesome community. I love every single one of you guys. We're still getting to know you. But I can only say it if you just understand what this kid's inspiration in his heart. Like I live with my son, obviously, so I know him inside out way better than you guys will ever. But I'm telling you, you guys are talented people, more than just arm wrestling, just being people that you are. And he's inspired. He is inspired. Just keep doing what you're doing. But if all these things we're talking about, if we can bring this to fruition sometime in the future, I'm telling you, it'll work. I'm on board, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know what I mean?
I don't even know what board I'm on, but look, I'm on the board. I'm on the board.
As long as you're on it with me, baby, we'll ride on it.
Yeah, we're all on it, man. That's the thing. That's the beauty is everybody wants this to get better.
Yeah. And you know what lights me up with Elijah is number one, he's I'm sure you're responsible for this. He's so disciplined. Anytime he works with me or Ricky or anybody else, an older, bigger, experienced or whatever, he's very serious, and very humble, and he listens. But my favorite moments is when he gets that time to go pull a little bit with Kaleo or something like that, and then I see that look in his eyes, when he's like having fun with it and he's starting to execute some of these things and stuff like that. I'll catch him over there. I'm like, yeah, he loves
you want to hear something funny? But it's humorous. It's not funny because I'm not that funny. But so if you have kids, you're gonna have a child. You're always rooting for them, okay? Like, okay, this is just for fun, but still inside, it's like I watch him pull and I'm kind of tensing up on the side right there, right?
Yeah.
And so when he's pulling with Kaleo, I'm like, why are you taking so long? Why are you doing this? He's like, Dad, I'm trying to let him work.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let him work. Like I'm like, hit him now. And then Kaleo makes a move and takes him down. He's like, Dad, I'm letting him work. We're trying to get better.
Right.
Wow.
So he's like, I got him. I could feel him. I got him the whole time. But, I'm giving him some, and sometimes he does hit on me a little faster, but if I catch him, I have him. It's just, we're working.
Yep.
He's a funny kid.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, this conversation kind of landing into the youth is a good segue into mentioning that, the biggest talks that Josh and I have been having in terms of probably our next episode is we're real antsy to get back into the youth for our next episode. So yeah, we're looking to do that. That was a blast. That was probably one of the most fun episodes that we had when we had the youth arm wrestlers on with us. They all showed up early in the Zoom check-in and they killed it in the show. But just their enthusiasm and everything like that, it's a really cool thing to be a part of. So yeah, we're looking to do that next. We've been on for couple hours, guys. I want to say, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. We got into some pretty cool conversations. Anything that y'all want to add at this point before we close things out?
I want to add something. Hey, I'm listening to you guys talk about this night. I'm thinking of like a arm wrestling camp for kids. I think that's cool,
That's so funny. That's so funny you say that. I told Kane the other day, my nephew, he's 17. He goes to a summer camp every year.
Right.
And the people who run the camp already asked me if I can get some arm wrestling guys to come out there and run like a 2-week camp and be part of the camp.
That would be cool.
Very cool.
It'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids will come out, but like we're all grown and there's like 1 or 2 kids, but youth arm wrestling camp, that'll be awesome.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Do it, Josh. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, well, I can't put myself out. I'm doing this sport. I would need to ask Ricky how much I gotta pay to get him out here.
Hey, you let me know when and where, and we'll figure it out. Hey, I'll tell you, when it comes to growing this sport into the youth, you never know. You may catch me on the right day, and you might get me for free $99.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some. I mean, they want somebody that's able to go for the whole 2 weeks, obviously, and stay in a cabin, and you get your meals paid for, and you get a whatever. But they want somebody to be. The camp has like 9 different things that they do, like somebody out there doing baseball, somebody doing rugby, somebody doing whatever, and they want arm wrestling to try to implement it because my nephew's bragged to him about it. And my nephew doesn't even arm wrestle. I mean, he's arm wrestled a few times with us, but he plays rugby. He's been doing it since he was 5. So, but he just talked to him about it, and they asked me. So, I mean, I think it'd be awesome. It'd be a way to get, more of the youth involved for sure.
Yeah, I'm down. Just go ahead and contact me outside of here when we're all done with this, and we'll go over some stuff.
They will all leave getting a jersey with their name on it or a nickname on it.
Yeah.
Well, even the Chris Kringle poll that we're doing in December, that would be awesome to have guys like Ricky there, because we're looking at 1,000, if not thousands of people there, with the large majority of them being kids coming to that event. And a lot of them will have never seen arm wrestling. So that would be really, really cool to inject some, veterans and smart arm wrestlers that are good at, working with kids. That'd be really cool.
How many of us on our Facebook pages and that type of stuff that we have, do you keep it public or is everything private with friends?
Guys, I got to run real quick. I'm sorry. I have to go.
Thanks for coming on, Mark.
I didn't want to interrupt, but good to see you all, guys. Todd, I don't know if we've ever met, but it was a pleasure listening to you, and I hope to see you again.
Absolutely.
You look like you're going to slip into a black hole out there.
Oh, no, I'm outside with bugs and flies swatting all over my head. All right? All right, guys, be well. Take care.
See you.
Good chat, man. Bye.
What are you asking, Don? Are you talking about just your regular post on Facebook if everybody can see them or only your friends?
Yeah, because like, I thought about that too, because when like there was something we were talking earlier and about us preaching, more or less we're preaching to the choir here. And if the only people that are seeing what we're doing is our friends that are doing the same thing, we're not showing really very many people. The only thing that I know I have that's like hit other people would be the TikTok, because that was the only one that I have that's open, because everything else like my Facebook or my Instagram, that's all shared with just friends. It's not public. See what I mean?
John,
Hey,
you kicked the door open to a really good question. Because on all these videos or all these episodes that we're doing, one of the questions they make you answer when you're putting together your video link is this content for kids or is it not? And right now I'm in the position that I always have to click no, it is not. However, we still want to have the youth on here, at least, an episode here and there. And so Josh and I make a strong effort to make this a family-friendly show. Try not to bully a lot of the guests into like watching too much of the language or whatever, but I really want it to primarily cater to the youth and to families and such. And I am curious about what it is that we would have to do, or would it be a sideshow, Josh, to be able to finally click, yes, this is for kids, because that is a huge, the YouTube audience, kids audience is absolutely massive. And if we could do something catered just to them, that would be phenomenal.
If you wanted to do something catered to kids, you'd be better off doing a 1-by-1 situation as opposed to a group panel, because the group panel discussions can be heated between a bunch of grown adults, especially men. So I think you'd be better off doing little snippets of you and Josh on one specific person at a time for, say, a couple minutes. Because, kids, who's going to watch, 30 minutes about this one guy talking about arm wrestling? A couple minutes, this guy gives you the rundown on, preset questions. Here's the questions we're going to ask. Make sure you try to keep it clean because we're trying to reach this specific audience. That guy's not going to be like, oh yeah, all these cuss words this and cuss words that, if he knows he's going to the kids. And we might even put on a little show for the kids, a little bit brighter, a little bit happier, a little bit, better background. If you're putting yourself out there for kids, you're going to try better to be better. So I personally think that would be a better route if you're trying to, get to the kid situation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I know that when you do mark that it is for kids, because I've experienced this with the YouTube stuff that I've put out, it disables open comments. Right. So if you're saying that the YouTube video that you're putting out is made for kids, they won't allow open comments on there. So you won't have those algorithm boosting comments that you need when you have closed comments. Unless you're established, obviously you have tons of subscribers, but they do that for a reason, because they don't want the kid to get trolled or said some profane stuff like people do in the comment section.
I guess my point was that if we're trying to reach more people by having things private, we're still putting up gates. We almost need to open up our own stuff too for, you might say, public scrutiny or whatever, and just let people see it and view it. And you know what? Because you're always going to have some negative, but that sometimes sparks discussions. And if people are discussing things that they're talking about our sport, that's a good thing too. So I think maybe we need to open maybe some doors and windows a little bit, and let people see who we are, what we do, and not just again just assume something, because again, if they don't know or hear from you and then all of a sudden you want to put something out there and they're like, well, they don't even know again that it was a sport or that you guys even existed, because we're in our private little corner over here, preaching to our own choir all the time,
Yeah, well, the reason I landed on the YouTube thing from what you were bringing up is because in terms of like social media, I think you might have brought up Facebook and stuff like that. A lot of the parents don't even let their kids,
Right.
be on there or have it. And by the time, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, and I know even TikTok is kind of like a young platform, but even that, you're mostly looking at teenagers that are more like at least 16, 17 that are getting on there doing all that stuff. And the proof of that is that, yeah, none of our posts for the show or anything arm wrestling is actually clicked private. These are public posts, but there's just not an audience on there for it. But on YouTube, it could be reached, and in my opinion, the portion of the youth that I'm most interested is, like Elijah's age or younger, maybe like 13 or younger. I think would be really good ages to target, but they would have to be, you'd have to be creating content for them specifically.
Well, I posted a video of Evan just the other day, right? And within like 45 minutes, it had 1,800 views. I know it's not a ton, but it's a lot, like, to catch on like right away or whatever. And I think it's kind of the same thing as like that ET thing, like when you watch like a smaller guy or a kid or somebody, that makes the viewer more interested in stopping on the video and watching it, or and especially nowadays, the way everything is, everybody's attention span is so damn short. I mean, you can't have a video longer than 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was a really good point you made, Ricky. Just short, pre-recorded content that's very specific.
Because when I was doing a lot of the bass fishing videos and stuff like that, and getting views on the trophy bass, trying to captivate people's attention to keep them wasn't easy. Again, if you had something that had an amount of time, you'd have people scrolling through or fast forwarding to try and get to the good part or something, because nobody wants to spend that much time watching a video. So everything, if you really got to keep it very interesting and as short as you can, because the longer you make it, there's probably people that look at the time of a video and then just skip it because it's too long. Okay. So I don't know. It's trying to captivate everybody. It's going to be the content, what you have, how you present it. It has to kind of grab you, a visual too. Everybody is very visual oriented, when they see something to grab it, they see something they like, oh man, that was cool. They want to see something that's visual, and making sometimes just a cool clip, a cool short video. Christian did a cool one on his polls. He made a really cool little short video of him, in that last tournament, and it was really cool though, and it kind of made it look exciting, so, and it wasn't, just a whole match where you're restarting and redoing and this and that. It was all just kind of the good part of this and this and this, and kind of told his little story quickly versus a 30-minute video,
Christian Zepeda?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Made a cool little clip. But again, it told his story quickly, exciting, and it wasn't a drag on. So it was something that somebody could really, I thought it was cool anyway. I don't know if any you guys seen it, or Ricky, but it was a cool little clip.
If you watch that clip, the first clip is the best one. I won't say why, but the first part of the clip is the best one. You'll see why.
All right.
I'm gonna go a little different on that.
When so ET came up to hang out a few weeks back, and he was giving some of his advice. I was curious what he thought about the show and everything, and he said keep doing our live streams. He thinks they're great and there's a place for it. But and my big concern was like for what we're trying to do, which is more put the spotlight on kids, women, and amateur, up and comers. We need eyeballs to see them for that to work. And so his biggest advice was to do the live streams, but clip a lot of the most interesting parts, especially that could be entertaining to younger folks and stuff like that. And it was this last Gabby Vasconcelos episode that I did that for. I think it might have been the first time, but either way, the episode itself that we did, that was maybe a couple hours or something like that. Yeah, I think we just got over 100 views. But then the one I clipped of her giving her prediction on Devin and Hermes, I think I just put it out last night or something like that. And
Nights ago, I saw it.
Yeah, we're pushing 4,000 views right now, and just in terms of progression, it's not going to stop. And so yeah, everything you're saying, you guys are saying is very true. The proof is in that pudding right away.
Yeah, Don, going to your point of like posting on your Facebook and stuff like that, you're obviously posting to your same group of friends, right? You're not really going outside that dynamic, right? So the Kris Kringle pool obviously this year, right? So 3 years ago I started a Christmas event. I had like 100 people there, maybe. And then the second year I had probably like 300. And then last year I promoted like this snow and food, bring a toy, you get food, sled run, all this stuff. I had easily over 1,000 people at this event. And that's because I kind of went a little different direction. Yes, I'm giving away something for free to get something as long as you bring something, you get something, right? But at the same time, I posted on different pages. I posted on real community groups, such as like a lot of like next door apps, exchange groups on Facebook and stuff like that. I didn't just post to my generic friends. I posted to all the community groups around. So I'm trying to touch an audience of 500,000 people within the Inland Empire, right? So what I did is before I did that, I went to every community group I could find on Facebook pretty much, and I just blew my flyer up as best as I could. And shit, it worked because I couldn't see the ground. There were so many people at this event. I'm like, holy crap, if it gets that much bigger, I'm gonna have to actually maybe look into buying a venue or something like that. But when it comes down to it, if you want to gravitate towards a different audience, you just have to add those groups on Facebook, because Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I wouldn't say probably not Twitter, but even TikTok, I mean, just add different groups, add people familiar with the industry or whatever the case is. If you're trying to target the age group of 10 to 20 or whatever the case is, add those people, add them within that same area code and whatnot. But I mean, that's how I got a ton of people to that event last year in my eyes. And still, obviously I'm trying to build my own brand, obviously coming into the arm wrestling industry. It's like, I'm not going to add all these, 60, 70, 80-year-old people. I got to add the younger generation if I'm going to create a brand for myself, right? Let's say I changed my name on Instagram to Wrist Crack, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, I want to capture a name before other people come in and try to steal that name, because I know it could potentially be big. And I'm like, oh, I don't want somebody stealing my name. You look at, Caleb, he's the arm bender. You look at ET, he's the whisperer. So everybody that blows up, they have a specific name. It's not even their real name. Like, like Devin Larratt, like I'm sure he has his name, right? John Brzezinski, right? He's like the monster killer, whatever you want to call him. I don't know, but there's just these different names to these people that have these identities, and ET caters to pretty much everybody. The Whisperer, the guy that wore the helmet, the biker, whatever the case is. You know, I believe there was a amateur match this last weekend at the tournament that somebody came with like a Nacho Libre mask or something like that. So it's like
Lucha Libre.
I saw that.
Nacho Libre.
If you want to blow up, if you want to get this sport to where it needs to be entertaining. We're not going to have those knockouts that the UFC has, right? So like you have to make it fun. Like I forget that guy's name, but he broke the table, or he was trying to break the table in that last
Don Moorman.
That was Don Moorman.
No, in the East versus West, whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah, Wagner.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like that was entertaining. Like we need more stuff like that. We need people getting in people's face. We need people breaking tables. We need people named the Whisperer or the Nutcracker or something stupid. You know what I mean? Like that's what people are interested in. Like, what the hell's a Whisperer? This guy, he's like arm wrestling these bigger guys, right? It's like cool. And it's like, you know, you watch Caleb, he's not the buffest guy in the world, but the dude's got a crazy hit. He's electric to watch. He's fun. So it's like those people that are fun to watch, I'm gonna be honest, like I'd rather watch that one match than the 9 other boring matches out there.
Yeah, they've created a character.
I mean, not many people pay attention to the women, right? But goddamn, Tara and Grace, that was one of the best matches of the weekend. I mean, it went down to the last match. I mean, either woman could have won it. I mean, it was neck and neck. It was going back and forth. So it's like, man, it was something electric. I love watching Caleb, you know, take out Will. That was super exciting too. So it's like Caleb's working his ass off, and you know, you get a guy that doesn't really put the time in that guy does, and it's like, hey,
not to cut you off real quick, but to point on that one point, Caleb, okay, pulled Will, who he holds in a very high regard, and everybody knows, you know, what Will is in this sport. He had his match with him, and then he went on to win the tournament on the same hand.
Exactly. Like that's so I don't want to.
So I'm saying that to end cap on what we were talking about earlier in the show, is that he still did that.
Yeah.
He still went and.
So that being said, I don't want to hear people bitch about that. Like it's just plain and simple. Like I don't want to hear you complain. Like this guy literally, I was like, after his super match, I was like, hey, you want me to rub your arm down? He's like, yeah, can you rub my elbow? I was like, I got you. I know you got a whole entire tournament to go to still. But no, it's super exciting. And like you guys said, I mean, the amateurs there was a ton of people watching the amateurs, and there was probably more cheering on the amateurs than there actually was on the pros, because there is a lot of like, oh yeah, who's this person? Who's this person? There's the guy that I always look for that I'm like, I know he's going to beat me, but I'm like, I want to face him. He's like a Russian or Armenian dude. He screams every time he wins the match. I don't know his name. Arnie. I don't know his name. Who knows? But he trains with all the Armenians or whatever, you know. So I'm just like, I look for him.
Talking about Armin?
Is that his name, Armin?
Yeah, but he's heavier than you, isn't he? How much do you weigh?
No, he was in the 185.
Oh, he must have dropped down or something. So,
But he came in second. He came in second. And then I don't know people's names, but the tall white guy came in first. He's been in the sport over a year, I'm told, or something like that. But anyways, getting back to Don's point, if you want to kind of gravitate towards the younger generation or not your same group, post these arm wrestling events on more community pages. Like it'd be like, if you're just trying to show your people of, you know, your same group, oh, we have a arm wrestling match this weekend. Okay, well, let's post that flyer on other community pages, and maybe some people that see it will be like, hey, like I'm gonna go check this out. I don't got nothing going on this weekend, like maybe I'll go check this out. So I mean, that's definitely an idea. It's like, hey, if we're all out, if there's a group of like 10 or 20 of us, let's take flyers to like a Ontario Mills or Victoria Gardens and hand them out. But hey, guys, don't know if you're interested in, but there's an event going on this weekend. Arm wrestling. It doesn't cost anything to go watch it or whatever the case is. But I mean, that's how we're gonna get the sport going. Hey, like, is your kid just playing video games? Oh, well, take them out to this. They might like it. But we just got to kind of reach a different audience, and that's what I do love about our event that we're having in December. That it's already established. It already has hundreds and hundreds of kids there, and we're going to be on a loud mic. And I mean, if it's set up the way I think it should be in my head with the Santa and Grinch stuff, oh my God, the crowd is just going to be, people are going to be mad that they can't visually see the match going on. In my eyes, they're gonna be like, oh my God, like there's gonna be kids on their parents' shoulders trying to see over people. And that's why I'm trying to get bleachers right now. So it's gonna be super exciting. So there's just a lot of things like that I visually see just getting in the sport. I'm like, oh my God, this is so untapped right now that it's like, I'm a business guy. Where can I make money? But where can I be the community guy at the same time? Right. Like I'm community guy over everything. Like I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars into the community over making any money at all. And that's because like, who the hell else is going to do it? If you don't do it, who else is going to do it? Like if you don't go out and give the homeless a meal or a shirt off your back or whatever, who else is going to do it? Like that's the way I think of things. Right. So, I mean, just gravitate towards a different audience. And I think that's how we're going to get there. You just can't keep posting to your same people. I tell my business partner, I do solar. I said, stop posting the same type of content and post different stuff that kind of gravitates towards a different audience. Go to your Instagram. I don't care that you have 1,000 followers, that there's only 500. I don't care about your stupid ratio. Go follow another 10,000 people that haven't seen your content, add them, because those people are going to be like, hey, how much do you charge? Oh, hey, how much is this? Oh, can I get a quote for this? It's like, you can't keep posting to your same audience. You're not going to get anywhere. So that's kind of like what I do. I even, if I got to follow 5,000-10,000 people, it's cool. They're seeing my stuff. I mean, unless it just randomly blows up on a stupid song that you posted with it. Right. So that's kind of how things work nowadays. Oh, let me post this trending song. Oh, I got 100,000 views, and that doesn't even link up with my video. Like that's how people are doing it now. So, I mean, I'm no professional. Go ask the Whisperer, I guess.
Travis is our Dana White. You're hired.
We all got to grow the sport, and everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody's like, oh no, I want to do this to make this money. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. You got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. There has to be like one or two leaders, and you have to have everybody behind your back. And if there's the big names willing to do that, then cool. Like all the guys have to be willing to kind of just follow that person. But I mean, I like Ing and Terzi, but it's like I can't follow a guy that's in a different country that's not really like promoting stuff in our country area. You know what I mean? So there has to be somebody in our country that steps up in our country. So cool. You guys got pay-per-views in Europe. Awesome. Cool. Great. Wonderful. But we don't have nothing going on in California pay-per-view wise, or Las Vegas, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I mean, cool that they're doing stuff out there, but we need stuff out here. We need to get stuff going out here somehow, some way. But we just got to find that audience, and we don't have that crowd yet, but we do have some great arm wrestlers. That's for damn sure. So, I mean, that's what I see so far, but what do I know? I've only been in the sport.
The biggest thing that drew me to the Chris Kringle poll is definitely the kids. It's going to be a good opportunity to have a large event with a bunch of kids involved.
I gotta go to bed, guys.
Yeah, I second that.
I told you we were gonna keep you up.
I'm 14 hours on the road tomorrow.
Oh man. Oh, Oklahoma. Good luck out there, Don. Go out
Don. Have a good night, man.
Show them what's what.
Be safe,
what
brother.
Tournament is it that you're pulling in Oklahoma?
Huh?
What tournament is it that you're pulling there?
USAA.
Okay.
They got
dude.
They got I'm hoping I make 76. So if not, well, then there's other options. But I'm
Out
pulling.
there and have fun. There's some cool ass people out there. Ricky and I went to Oklahoma together to compete.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing time. A lot of good food. What town in Oklahoma are you going to?
Hinton.
Oh yeah, I don't know that, but I know it's probably going to draw a lot of the same folks out there, and they're all very good people. A lot of strong people too.
Right.
But anyways, I need some dinner, guys, and it was an absolute. Well, we had smoothies before, but we're gonna do some dinner now. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure having you all on here, and yeah, a lot of different types of thoughts in this, and that's why we do this. You know, we're all a little different, but you know, we're getting together in a community to make things happen. You know, and that's awesome. You're all appreciated. Everyone in the chat is appreciated. Thanks for tuning in. Josh, thanks as always for helping me keep this boat afloat. Y'all have a good night.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Everybody have a great one.